Yo, Buff Nation, what's going on? BWBs, all of my bandwagon buffs. What's up? What's up? Happy Friday. The weekend is it's right around the corner. All right. Thank you so much, Father. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me today on this Friday. I appreciate you. Welcome to TLP Sports Club. You are now watching TLP Live. I'm your host, Harry Billion. So, guys, what's going on? Hope you're having a good day, and hopefully you've had a great week. So, guess what, man? Since Coach Prime has arrived to Colorado, a lot of us came over. Even on this channel, I've called myself BWB Bandwagon Buff. So we're here and we're supporting Coach Prime. There's one thing that we've noticed is that there's a disparity when it comes to how Coach Prime is covered. Coach Prime is one of the most covered coaches in college football in recent years. All right. He has a stature. He has bravado. The reason why he's called Coach Prime is because he created that name in order for him to actually make more money. When he was in high school, he created the Prime brand. He's electric, right? He's an electric personality. With all of that and his playing have come a celebrity. So here at Colorado, when he became the coach over here at Colorado, the national media took notice. Now, I want to ask the question, I wonder why the national media took notice at Colorado, but not at Jackson State, even though there was some coverage at Jackson State. Well, if you think about it, when you get to the FBS level, this is where everything kind of like culminates to. This is the big boys league now. This is where it all matters. So when Coach Prime got to the FBS level, at this level, everybody's paying attention. So Coach Prime is here. His electrifying personality, his bravado, everything that he exudes kind of commands attention. And the national media, because of all of the fans, because of all of the hoorah that went into his leaving Jackson State, so here we are. There is something that's happening in the media, however, with all of the attention that a lot of us, we call ourselves BWBs around here, bandwagon buffs. A lot of the bandwagon buffs, when somebody says something in the media, we take offense, right? When it says something greasy, we take offense and we go on the defense trying to make sure that they put respect on Coach Prime's name. With all of that and all of the YouTube channels, you can pick your favorite ones. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully I'm one of yours, right? But yeah, with all of that and all of the coverage that Coach Prime and his Buffaloes receive every single day. And when I say every single day, that's literally an understatement. All right? The Colorado Buffaloes and Coach Prime, Deion Sanders are covered, I would say, around the clock. You would not miss a thumbnail on the internet when it comes to like Coach Prime coverage. So some people are interpreting that as defending Prime or as us whining. Like they're saying that we are the whiniest fan base in college football. But on today's show, I want to talk about who are the whiniest fan bases, or what's the whiniest fan base in all of college football? And then, are we the whiniest, or is what we're doing plausible? Us, the way that we either defend Prime or we as what I pundicifying Coach Prime, is that over the top? We're going to talk about that. Join TLPlive@gmail.com is the email. Join TLPlive@gmail.com. That is the email. I want you guys to come on here. You email me, I send you a link, and then you come on here and we can discuss the different topics. The topics today is I want to talk about, are we justified in our our pontification of Prime? Let's just say defending to make it easier. Our defending of Prime, are we justified in what we do? Is it over the top? That's one thing. And then I want to talk about which college football team has the craziest fan bases, and we're going to contrast that. We're not just going to talk about crazy fan bases, but which college football teams also have the best fan bases. When you go to a game, it doesn't get crazy. They sit down to watch the game, they cheer, they can be as high as whatever, but they're cool people to be around. I witnessed that at TCU. TCU, when I was there in Texas, the people were cool. I was trying to push as many buttons as I could push, but they were just looking at me like, bruh, it's not that serious. And I'm like, yes, it is. But yeah, I thought TCU's crowd were pretty calm for a football fan base. But you never know. I've only been here about a year or so I don't necessarily know all of the fan bases. So I would like some help. Join tlplive@gmail.com is the email. You email me. Let's talk today about fan bases. And let's talk about the coverage that Coach Prime is receiving, some of the hate that he receives in the media, and us as fans. All right? For the most part, the BWBs, and we'll talk about the legacy fans that were here before. My guy Wild Dog, he's one of the legacy fans, but he claims to be BWB. He supports the BWBs as well. But yeah, all of us together, the way that we cover Prime and the way that we try to defend him, is all of that justified. And then we'll talk about more, and then wherever the conversation goes, we're going to try to travel there as well. It's Free for All Friday. So let's get started. Let's talk about this, because I feel like every time something happens in the media, I feel like every time that a message is put out there, when you get somebody like myself or anybody else, there's other channels that, they go in a lot more than I do. Excuse me. There are other creators that go way far. They would jump all the way out there and they would do a whole lot more than me. I try here at this channel, I try to keep things more centrist. I try to hear both sides. So I don't always go in. Even though I am a supporter of Prime, I try to hear both sides, and I try to listen with an ear that kind of say, okay, let me give this person talking the benefit of the doubt. And then I also know the media, so I know what the media tries to do sometimes with propaganda, and they try to spoil certain things. So I'm aware of that. So a lot of my commentary has to do with my knowledge for the media, and then also my support for Coach Prime. So I want to know, am I biased? I'll lay out my argument, and then y'all can help me to try to figure out if I'm biased, right? Some of the guys say I have my Coach Prime shades on and my earbuds on too tight. But if that's the case, let's make that argument today and see if we are the whiniest fans, or if people are just haters and they just can't tell that they are haters. And they just hate the fact that every time something is said, we go on the defense and we start defending. We're going to talk about that today. All right, so the first situation that happened either this week or it was last week, the first situation was the situation with Paul Finebaum. Paul Finebaum, I made a video about it. Hopefully you've seen it by now. And if you haven't seen it, let me just give you a little brief description of what happened with Paul Finebaum. So basically, Paul Finebaum, he was on the what's it called? McElroy and Ehrlich show. He was invited because he talks about the SEC, and he was invited to talk. And on that show, on the podcast, they were talking about legacy coaching status. They were saying, hey, there was an era of the rock star coach. like the Jim Harbaugh, the Nick Saban. We had a rock star coach or celebrity coaches, and but Nick Saban is no longer around. Jim Harbaugh went to the NFL. We don't know how he's going to do. I mean, some coaches like Matt Rule, they go to the NFL, they fall flat on their faces because the culture is different there, right? And then they come right back to college. So we'll see you in 5 years, Jim Harbaugh. We'll see you in 5 years, Harbaugh. Oh, man. But yeah, so those rock stars of coaches who kind of like pretty much they just, they coached their way into rock stardom. They had a winning program and they became rock stars. Everybody knew their names because of hard fought games that they actually pull out the win. Nick Saban obviously being the GOAT, I guess the GOAT of all GOATs. Then with that idea in mind, the question finally got over to Coach Prime. Now, keep in mind, this is a question that was asked of Harbaugh. Do you need to be a rock star coach to find success in this NIL environment of college football today? So he went down the line without mentioning Coach Prime. He answered the question the way he was supposed to answer it. And then obviously when you're talking about rock stardom or you're talking about celebrity coaches, Coach Prime actually happens to be a rock star celebrity coach. Or he happens to be a rock star celebrity who is currently coaching his way into that actual category. All right. So the way he answered the question, though, I thought was kind of weird. He answered the question in a very how can I say? He didn't answer the question in a respectful way. His answers was like, I don't consider him to be a rock star of a coach. All right? That part I got it. He's not a rock star as a coach. He's a rock star who happens to be a coach. If he would have just stopped there and then kind of go into, his answer, I would have got that. But he followed up with he's not even a great coach. He went on to say stuff like, I feel like what he did last year was illegitimate. I mean, he said several things that I felt like, wow, you're going way in about this. You're going way in, and it's unnecessary to go way in. I see your argument, right? I see your argument where you're like, he's not a rock star, so I'll rock with you on that one. I'll rock with him on that. I'm all good with that. But then at the end of the day, when you start going in about illegitimacy, and then he says something about he's a celebrity coach that was created by the industry. I said, well, wait, time out, bro. You're going way too far. That's not how you answer that question. The way that you should have answered that question, you should have said something like, well, I don't consider Prime to be, currently, I don't consider Prime to be a coach that is a rock star, right? I don't consider him to be a rock star coach or a celebrity coach. He's already a celebrity, so we got to give him that credit. However, the idea of a rock star celebrity coach is in the actual coaching acumen or acumens, or is actually when you coach over time and you've garnered success based on wins and losses and other elements that comes with that. So while I don't consider Prime to be in that category yet, he's had a pretty illustrious career, all the way coming from high school where he coached his son to 3 state championships as a offensive coordinator, and then going over to Jackson State and doing what he did over there. He is coming into his own, and he's doing pretty well. So he's on his way, and then now he's here. He's only been at the FBS level for 1 year, so he's not necessarily in the rock star category yet as a coach, but he has a pretty nice resume doing it the right way, doing it the way that coaches are supposed to come up. So he didn't just become this industry created rock star overnight. No, he's been coaching for over 20 years. So we have to give him that credit. And his record is impeccable. So 27-7 record is pretty impeccable as a coach that's coming in now at the FBS level, which is the final, the big boys level. We're going to have to give him more grace and more time to develop, and we'll see if he becomes that rock star. That's the way that somebody who doesn't have an agenda will actually answer that question. So I made a video pointing those things out. Maybe I didn't articulate it the way that I just did, but that was the sentiment. I got accused of being a fanboy, people saying that I'm doing too much, or the comments vary. So that's kind of like where today's show comes from. Whenever we say anything, we're whining, we're complaining, we're defending Prime for no reason. Some people saying, yes, he was correct. Yes, Finebaum was correct for saying that Coach Prime was an industry plant. And I'm like, okay. It's hard when you're having to type stuff into the comments, because at the end of the day, it's like, but so much you can say. And in the comments, people are not commenting to have a real dialogue. People are commenting to just get their points across, to just be heard, and then they move on. Sometimes you're working, you're doing other things, you comment, you move on. And then for other people, you're sitting there trying to craft this really thoughtful answer, and you come off and you try to do the best you can to try to give a great answer. And then you get met with the clown emoji, laughing emojis, because people don't really take time to read these answers anyway. Nobody cares in the comment like that, right? So nobody, but people like me, I care. I really do care. I put a lot of thoughts into my comments, and I put a lot of thoughts into my videos. So I take it personal sometimes when you take all this time to write something very articulate and something very astute. Astute? I don't know. But when you take the time to really craft something that you felt like it was meaningful, and then they barely read it, and it's like 2 seconds later you get a whole 10,000 page paragraph response. You're like, you didn't even take time to understand what I just wrote. And now you're calling me names. I know you didn't listen to me. You were just commenting you were listening to just respond. So fan bases don't care. It's like barbershop talk. Nobody really cares. The only thing you care about is making your point and moving on. That's it. So I get it. I understand it. All right, guys? But that's why I want to have this conversation today. Is it because we respond or we say something or we try to defend Prime that we are whining or that we are complaining? Because isn't that what we do in college football as fans? When somebody says something against your favorite team or somebody says something against your guys, are you not in the position to always say something back? So what really makes us whining and complaining? Let's talk about that. Let me see if anybody wants to come on today. Let me make sure. Let me just check the email. Make sure. All right, so I got a few guys that want to come on. Just give me a second. Let me go ahead and send the email. I want to actually make it make sense today, because at the end of the day, let's define what whining is, so that we can put some respect on the BWB's name. Because I don't really think that we are whining for the wrong reason. I think if we're whining, then we're whining for the right reasons. Let me try to describe before the guys come on, let me try to describe what I think whining is. I think whining in sports, whining fan bases are every single call against your team. If it doesn't go in your favor, then you say something. Oh my gosh, that was the wrong call. Even if it's questionable, it's the wrong call, right? Your guy, he does something and they blow the whistle to give him a flag, that's the wrong call. Like, that's whining, all right? I consider that one part of whining. Every single call, whining, right? Okay, if your team, let's just say, for instance, you get Florida State. Florida State was snubbed from getting into the playoffs. last year. They were snubbed. They went 13-0, and I think their schedule was pretty nice and pretty. When you weigh the difference, the difficulty level, I think they were there. Now they lose their quarterback to injury, and then the committee, the 13 board committee members, they said, well, if you lose your quarterback, you're not going to be able to compete at that same level, and you're going to get blown out like 2022 TCU, and we don't want to repeat that. So I think that was the message that they were trying to send. So if the Florida fan base goes out and they start saying, well, that's wrong, give us an opportunity to compete, are we calling them whining fans? Is that considered whining as well? Because I think what people try to do is like anytime you say something that is either egregious to you or that's something really bad that happened to you, it's going to be considered whining. Like, be quiet, don't say anything at all. So let's define whining today, and hopefully we can come to a conclusion that either we are the whiniest fan base, or people are just complaining because because of the dislike for Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffs, because obviously we're oversaturated. I think that's what it is, but we'll get to the bottom of that. Let me bring on my first guest. His name is Phil So Real. You recognize Phil So Real. Hey, man, what's up with you today? Thank you for calling in. I appreciate you.
Hey man, trying to be a little productive at work today, so I didn't get to pull up a lot of stuff and do a bunch of research like I wanted to, but I'm here. I always got to come on and support.
For sure, for sure. I appreciate you. I'm using a new microphone. It sounds good over there on your side of town?
Yeah, I rock with it. Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, so help me to define, before we get too deep into the show, help me to define what do you guys consider whining, so that I can understand what whining is, because like we always have conversations in the back end, right? What about legacy and new fan bases, BWBs? Please tell me, let's define whining. And then you know what? Hold on one second. Let me bring on DC. We can do this together. Hey DC, what's up, man? Thank you for calling in. Appreciate you.
What's up, everybody? Hopefully, y'all are having a fantastic snake-free Friday.
For real.
That's an inside joke. All right,
For
listen.
real.
So DC, I wanted to bring you and Phil on first, because I always tease you guys as being legacy guys, right? Legacy football guys. You've been around here longer than a lot of us. Y'all help me, Phil. You go first. Y'all help me define whining as a fan base. Phil? What is your definition of whining?
So mine is a little bit different from yours, because the way you broke it down, talking about fans that always complain about missing calls, things of that nature. That's things that everybody does. So I don't. I think it is whining, but I don't think that classifies you as a whining fan base, if that makes sense. But how I would define a whining fan base is one that cannot take criticism of their program or their coach, one that has locked the expectations but does not have any clear evidence for why they should have those expectations, be it on the field or through recruiting. Um, and then I would say, probably lastly, I think sometimes the whiniest uh, fan bases are those of teams that are not as good as they want them to be. So what I'm saying, you got a fan base that's acting like their team should be in the championship every year when they would be lucky to even come third or fourth in their conference. So those are kind of some ways that I would describe a whiny fan base.
Okay. All right, DC. What is your definition of a whining fan base?
All right, well, I'll give very similar to Phil, but I'll give an example. So let's say new coach comes in, like Dion, and he does well at the beginning, but then the season doesn't go well at the end. All right, so then you have to get some new people in and all that kind of stuff. Then most of the people are so when the sports analysis were telling you were good, putting you on game day was great, great, great. But then when you are in the season 4-8, now we're moving into the next season, and people are saying you're going to be 10th in the conference. Then they're saying, well, that's not fair. Y'all evaluating, y'all disrespecting us, all that kind of stuff. It's like, no, I mean, like, how can you rank this team higher than necessarily that when you have other teams that are proven? So what will happen is I think the whiny fans is that you have a tendency to look at your team, which you should. I want to make sure I'm clear. You should cheer for your team. But then if somebody's giving you a different prediction or saying, I don't see that, I see, let's say, Vegas being at 5.5. There's a reason for that, and they have a fact for that. So if you're constantly pushing back against that, you also have to factor in, well, we did go 4-8. So exactly where do we want us to put? And then you start saying stuff about people who aren't saying you're great. That to me is whiny.
Okay. All right, guys. So hold on real quick. Let me bring on Tim. Tim, welcome to the show, brother. I appreciate you calling in. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, y'all? Thank you for having me on, Harry. What up,
What's
Phil?
good,
What up,
Tim?
DC?
All right, so let's
What
get let's
up?
let's get your opinion. Let's get your thoughts on what your definition of a whining fan base is.
Everything that Phil and DC just touched on was some of the things that I was gonna say. Um, I would also take into consideration also somebody like I mean, what I would consider just really a difference of opinion of the team that you support or you like. Um, that pushback, like DC said, you may not see that because you just you believe in your team and you really just want them to win. Like say for instance, LSU, for example, I use the team that I attended and I really root for. Uh, like if DC and them just say, hey, DC will feel they Bama fans, they be like, hey man, I don't think LSU should be ranked in the AP poll at number 4. And I'll be like, I may say something like, y'all crazy, man. But it may be something that they're seeing that I'm not seeing. But you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, Harry, in the beginning of your show. I'm not willing to do my research, you know, on why they would say that. But it doesn't, I'm sitting here vouching for LSU and I'm not willing to do my research and I'm just complaining and whining about everything. And then it doesn't pan out and we're not even in the top 25 of the AP poll. So that to me, that would consider me a whiny fan. I just want to whine about everything, but I don't want to do my research to validate why we are at the position that we're in.
Okay, so with all those definitions in mind, right? Let's try to see where CU fans fit, and then we'll move on to comparing that to other fan bases and how they treat information from about their team. So the situation that we had with Coach Prime, right? We had Paul Finebaum and how he answered the question about Coach Prime when he was asked about him being a celebrity slash rock star coach. And how what I said in the beginning of the show is like the way that he should have answered that question, it should have been more of a question of saying, I don't really necessarily see him as a celebrity coach yet, even though he is a celebrity. He went into a whole nother direction, and it made me feel some kind of way. Like every time we try to like defend Prime or we try to say, oh man, this guy's a hater, we are come against, or people come against us and saying you guys are whining. Paul Finebaum was telling the truth. So do you think telling the truth is something that when somebody says what he did was illegitimate, he was created by the media as a, he's a celebrity coach created by the media. He's a Hollywood celebrity coach created by the media. Even though Coach Prime coached for 20 years and did it the right way from the people, so because you will get some coaches who come from their playing days and they just want to be thrust into the coaching rings from because they were good at they were good at coaching, they were good at playing. Coach Prime actually he was quiet for a minute for like 20 some years. Coach Pee Wee High School, went to the FCS, and now at the FBS. Isn't that something we should more so respect as opposed to saying, "Oh, he's a celebrity coach or he's somebody the Hollywood created him"? Am I off by saying that? And we'll take you first, Tim.
First off, I would say no, you're not wrong for saying that, and I would say it sounds like a lot of jealousy. You know, when has Coach Prime never got it out the mud? And for those that don't understand that terminology, what I'm saying is he didn't inherit this position. You know, he just so happened to be a Hall of Fame player that translated into wanting to coach kids and young men and turn young men into men. So everything that he's saying, man, I just feel like is jealousy and hate toward Coach Prime. You know, they don't want to see an African American, I hate to use this, an African American man be great at playing and great at coaching. They don't want to see him get to a Nick Saban status. So they're gonna do everything. They're gonna write everything to try to tear him down. But all the darts and stuff that they're throwing, it just hitting metal and it just falling to the ground because he's built for it. So I just feel like it's a sense of jealousy toward Coach Prime more than anything else.
Is it? Do you think it's a sense of jealousy because what people say in the media, like it sounds like because he was not on the sidelines or because Coach Prime did not give him a personal invitation, that he sound like he's taking a different route because he started off by being a Prime supporter, but now it seems like he's taking a whole nother tone, and it's a weird tone because if you listen to his earlier comments and when Prime came on the scene, he sounded like somebody who just he was answering a question based on what he thought it was, but now it seems like he has an agenda. So do you think it's more jealousy from that standpoint, or is it jealousy from what you're saying as far as like they're trying to hate because of the black situation?
I mean, it could be a hidden agenda, but you know, like you said, he supported him in the beginning and everything seemed cool. But you know, a lot of these people, some of them, if they feel like they don't get the attention or the recognition from certain coaches, they now they start to jump on that other bandwagon of hate and pushing false narratives or whatever to seek that attention. No different than what's the guy Jason Whitlock. I feel like
Uh-huh.
he's an attention seeker. He want Coach Prime to either say his name to help his channel grow, or no different than academic in the music industry. When Kendrick Lamar mentioned his name, it's just like a light bulb went off. Even though he wasn't saying it in a good way, it just made him that more relevant. So I feel
Mm.
like, you know, he seeking attention from Coach Prime, want him to say something
I think
towards
that
him. Or
that's
go ahead.
that's
I'm
an
sorry.
interesting that's an interesting take. So let me just say hi to everybody that's in the chat. Real, hey, Real, what's up? VI, born and bred, what's up with you? DC's on the panel. KMS, how you doing today? Dupree, what's up? Shirley Kimball, how you doing today? Hope all is well. For Kevin Prayer, like Richard Pryor. Hopefully everybody's well. If you are at work, Wild Dog, how you doing? Dre, what's up with you? If you're at work and you're listening, thank you for listening. I appreciate you. Again, the email is, let me put the email on the screen before I go to my other guys so they can answer this question. It's jointlplive@gmail.com. If you want to call in, if you have an opinion based on what we're saying, you can join the show by emailing jointlplive@gmail.com, and I will send you a link and you can come onto the show. All right, so let's go to DC Carson. DC, based on what you just heard Tim say, you can either push back or you can give me what you think, what your thoughts are on the question.
Well, first I would say that of course there's salacious headlines and stuff like that that's gonna get views. Colorado is gonna get views, positive and negative. That's gonna come with the shine. So that's to be expected. But when you start looking a little deeper, then we also have to ask that question. Well, wait a minute. Are we okay? Like when Paul was, and like Herb Street and Desmond Howard and a lot of them on game day praising Prime, there was no issue with that. But then you gotta be careful if somebody gives you criticism, and I get what you're saying, Harry Head. There's a line between criticism and hate, and we can talk about that. But then you got to be to a point where you don't turn around and go, okay, well, I'm getting something that's not favorable or flattering. Then now all of a sudden it's hate, or they have this bigger agenda. That's not always the case. For example, Paul Finebaum, and Tim, you'll get this. Paul Finebaum used to light Les Miles up. He lit Ogeron up. He lit Petrino up. He lit Tank Lane Kiffin when he was the coach at Tennessee up. We can go down a list. He even talked smack about Spurrier, how Spurrier quit the middle of the year when he was at South Carolina.
DC, you're skirting the question. That's not the question yet. I'll get to that.
What I'm saying.
Hold on. The question that I'm asking you, the first question I want you to answer before you go down this line of trying to give me a general answer, right?
Right.
The question that I'm asking is, when somebody says he was created by Hollywood, he was a Hollywood created coach, celebrity coach.
Mm-hmm.
What he did last year was illegitimate, right? When he's saying those things, are those things accurate based on what the first part of what you just said, right? Because everybody gets criticized. Is it accurate to say, or do you think that that's a deeper thing that he's going into? Because how can you be created by Hollywood when you started at the Pee Wee League, did it all the way? This is the right path of coaches and how they're supposed to come up. So then how can somebody say, whether you criticize everybody or not, how can somebody now come back and say you were created by Hollywood? How is that possible?
Okay. Well, it is possible. You can be have been a coach at the Pee Wee level, the high school level. Then, of course, when he went to finish the degree, he can go to JSU. But then you can be. I mean, it's not out of the question to say you could be a coach and then someone decide, or the power brokers behind the scene. And I'm not saying this happened. I'm just saying we can't say it can't happen, because it can happen. Well, I can take this because this person has.
I said, did it happen? I didn't say if not can't happen. I said, did it happen? This is Coach Prime we're talking about.
Well,
not the general stuff I'm talking about. I'm asking you a direct question. Coach Prime. I'm directly asking you about Coach Prime.
Are you asking me directly, was Coach Prime created?
That I'm asking
Hollywood
you directly
created.
about Coach Prime, not in a general sense. Does this stuff happen? I'm talking about Coach Prime directly.
Okay. Was Coach Prime created by Hollywood? I don't know that.
You do know that?
No, I don't know that.
Well,
I know that.
Let me give it to you back again. Trinity High School, right? He coached there for how many years? He also coached at his own Prime Prep school as a head coach. He was the coordinator at Trinity, and then he went to Jackson State. So he's done it for 20 years. So when some guys come into the league, right? When some guys come into the league, come into coaching, because of their playing time, what they do is they want to leapfrog the years or the preparation that it takes for you to come up in the ranks. Coach Prime didn't come up that way. He didn't just come from being one of the greatest and being a gold jacket and say, give me a college football team for me to coach, especially somewhere in the SEC. He lay low and coached for 20 years. You cannot say I don't know that, and
see now
and then say that he was created by Hollywood. He was a coach created by Hollywood.
Whoa! See, now you're trying to shift that conversation to say, listen, you just sit back and said this hasn't been done, right?
Wait, what?
We're just sitting here saying that it hasn't been done. Like, can you look?
What hasn't been done?
What you're saying. So hold on a minute. I'm making sure I'm getting where you're saying.
I was just trying to clarify my question, like what I was trying to tell you. So I didn't say anything about this hasn't been done. I'm saying how can Coach Prime be created by Hollywood when he's actually come up from the Pee Wee all the way to the FBS? He's done it the right way. So how can Paul Finebaum be correct in his saying when some people saying he is right? How can some people say he's right to say that Coach Prime was a Hollywood created coach when he's actually done it the right way? That's the question. That's the question I'm asking.
Well, you asked me. I'm answering that question. You can look at his record and say he has coached, but you cannot sit here and say, well, he is at this level and that there was nothing else behind the scenes that was tried to push him. For example, y'all remember I always sit back and say is that when you had Coach Prime on the same commercial as Saban, that's a huge bit of messaging. So we can't sit back and say that was done for a reason. So if the end of the day is Coach Saban, who had been a GOAT in several rings, got rings for fingers and toes, and then you had Coach Prime, who was at JSU at that time, who had not even gotten to those accolades yet. He was still in there. It's that they were merged together. Can you tell me why would you merge those two together when one is the greatest coach of one time and one is just kind of getting started in P4, P5?
I can answer that for you if you want me to, DC.
Sure.
Because you got one of the greatest coaches in college football at FBS level, and now you got an outstanding coach at the HBCU level. Why not merge both of them together, which is going to shed a lot more light on the HBCU level that's lower tier than the FBS level. So bringing them in, and now if I was going to also say real quick, if you want to talk about that from a marketing standpoint, why not put one of the greatest marketing geniuses in Coach Prime in that commercial? So I don't know if that, and I hope you don't take this away the wrong way, but I don't know if that was a good assessment to throw in there at the end.
Well, you just kind of, if you think about it, you kind of listen. I'm not saying Coach Prime isn't Hollywood created at all, because I don't know. What I am saying is, when he was on that commercial, he was not winning those games at HBCU. He eventually started, but he was not winning those games initially like that, and he was still on the commercial. So now, if you sit back and say marketing, you would say you would put him on there, which means that obviously I won't say Hollywood, but that was it from a marketing standpoint because of his status as a celebrity, not so much of what he was going to eventually do at JSU.
Can I jump in, because I have a different perspective than both of you?
Yeah, I mean, DC, I don't know that you're answering the question, but anyways, go ahead, Phil.
Oh, I'm answering it.
so
I don't know if you understand the question.
So I want to be clear about this. The way the question and the answer on the actual podcast was brought up, the way I interpreted it the first time and the second time I went back and listened to it, is that Paul Finebaum was talking about the attention that Colorado and Deion was receiving. He said what happened. This is a direct quote. He said what happened last year was generational, but it was mostly forced and created. It was in many ways illegitimate. He never really beat anyone of consequence, but that didn't stop us from talking about him. So for me, when I hear that, I'm hearing the attention. I don't think he's saying Deion is not a legitimate coach. He's saying the attention that the media, he included, gave them wasn't warranted, right? And so when I sit back and I look at it from that standpoint, I think that is an accurate statement to say that the media played a large role in hyping them up. Because if it was about quote unquote substance, you have two other coaches who took over 1-11 teams the previous year, just like Deion. Deion had a 4-8 record. One coach, the coach at Northwestern, David Broom, his record was 8-5, and that's in the Big Ten, which a lot of people will agree that is a difficult conference. I'm not saying it's the best. I'm not saying it's the worst. I'm just saying it's a difficult conference to be in. So to be able to go 8-4 in that conference says a lot. And then you have South Florida, Alex Golish. They won 7 games last year. So why aren't we talking about these teams? If we want to make it all about the fact that Deion was able to take a 1-11 team and go 4-8, why aren't those other coaches that took 1-11 teams to having a winning season this year, weren't they getting that same energy? And I think that's some of the point that Paul Finebaum was trying to make.
Okay,
hey, I
so
have a question to you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
so let me
Does any
reframe
what I
this.
said make sense though? Are you at least understanding
From
what I'm
the
saying?
angle that you're coming from the angle you're coming, it makes sense. But what you're saying, but if you listen to what he's saying, right, the attention was illegitimate. It was not
Mhm.
illegitimate. The attention was not forced. It was not created by the media. The attention was created by the fans. And then the media came for that attention that the fans created. So the
Real
media
quick,
did not create anything. It was
but how
not
can we say the chicken or the egg came first? We really don't know, because
we do know, because I
if the
know how the
media is
media works.
pushing,
The media doesn't go to you just based on what you just said. If those guys were as good, then guess what? The media will be going to them. You have to understand how the media works. The media
I hear
doesn't.
that.
The media
But
doesn't.
their
come
record
to you.
shows they were better than Dion. So
But
why
that's
weren't they
fine.
getting
But
that
that's
attention?
based on the record. But I'm trying to tell you how the media, when he's saying it's illegitimate, it was forced, and the media created it. I'm about to debunk that right now. The media doesn't come to you when you're not relevant, when you don't already have your attention. The media is a vulture. The media comes to you when you already have the attention. The WNBA did not have anybody paying attention until Kaylin Clark and Angel Reese created their little hand face thing, and everybody started paying attention. And then everybody started paying attention. So the media started going to Kaylin Clark and started interviewing her, but she was already cooking for years. So the media doesn't work the way that you think it works. It works the other way around. You create your own buzz, and then the media comes to you and try to glean on that buzz that you already have. The media doesn't create anything. It only gleans off of what you already have. So it was Deion Sanders that organically created his own audience and his own army, because I was talking about it. Deion Sanders' army is a strong army. They were doing it all the way in high school, right? In high school, when they had that YouTube, when they had their YouTube series, they had already had an audience. When Shedeur Sanders even announced where he was going, there was media, there was attention there. And then when Coach Brown went to Jackson State, the lines were wrapping around the corner, and the big media wasn't there. Some media was there, but then that whole controversy that started with Coach Prime coming from Jackson State, and everybody started talking about it. That's when the media started paying attention. So for him to say that he was created by the media and it was illegitimate, that is disingenuous and it's full of crap, because the media doesn't create anything. It only adds to whatever is already there.
So I will concede the fact that the media went along with what the fan base wanted, right? You're saying the fans came
The
out and
fans
wanted to...
came first, and then the media followed.
So
Yeah.
I'm conceding that point to you. I still think that the media played a role in it, and I think for Paul Finebaum, he's looking specifically at whatever role he feels the media played in him. And if we want to be fair, they didn't talk about them as much once the season kind of fell off the rails. Once the fans started pulling back, the games weren't sold out as
That's
much.
your point right there.
Fans weren't watching. So I'll get it to you.
That's
So
the
I'll
point
get it
right
to
there.
you.
You see what I'm saying? The media,
Yeah.
the media gleans. They're clout chasers. The media is a clout chasing platform. They don't never create anything. All right. The media is not interested in creating. They're interested in just gleaning. That's it. That's how the media works.
They're interested in numbers.
They're interested in numbers.
That's really what it boiled down to.
Right.
But is it
now let me set up this question
ask?
again for you. Let me set up this
Cool.
question again for you. When Paul Finebaum comes out, right? Because keep in mind, when I'm answering or when I'm doing these rebuttals, I'm not doing it from a place of ignorance. I'm doing it from a place of knowledge, and I understand how propaganda in the media works. So once I understood what Paul Finebaum was doing, that's when I went on. When you guys sent me the article, and yo was like, "Yo, check this out." And then DC was like, yo, he was giving me all his stuff. I was like, all right, cool. I sat down and I thought about it. I listened to it a couple of times. I read the thing also, and I said, this guy he's not genuine. Because if you go back a few more clips, the way that he was talking is the way that the media should talk. Just assess this situation as it is. I don't expect you to give Coach Prime any props like DC always try to do. He started to say, oh, when he's saying something good, y'all are good with it, but then when he says something negative, you can't accept it. That's not what this here. I drank some coffee now. Man, I'm burpy. That's not what this is. I want you to take your legacy glasses off and your legacy earbuds off, DC, and I want you to hear this the right way. When you say illegitimate, those are words. Illegitimate, He's not really a great coach. It's not necessarily saying he's not really a great coach. He's just saying, I don't trust him. I don't believe he's a coach at all. And then when he goes down and say he was created by the media, all of those things are inaccurate from a journalistic standpoint. They're inaccurate, and he knows that. That's what I was calling out.
Can I make a quick comment? I want to let DC go since you specifically called him out, but I just want to point out something. It sounds like you're trying to police the way people are speaking because you wanted him to give you the correct media speak and not kind of throw jabs and throw digs at them. And so it's interesting that you take issue with that, but everybody else wants to love Dion because he keeps it real. You know what I'm saying? He don't really have like a filter. So why is it an issue now when somebody else can, speaks towards him and they're not using a filter and they're keeping it real. Okay, so to me, that's the biggest issue I have with the conversation behind.
And I got the perfect answer for that. Whenever Shador and Coach Prime, based on what you just said inside of your own comment, right? Every time Shador and Coach Prime use their whatever they do whatever they do, you guys always come back and say why he could have just said it this way. Even I have done that. I have said, well, Coach Prime, you could have taken this route, right? So if you're telling me why am I not okay with him speaking the way he's speaking, is what I do on both sides. I'm saying, hey, if you don't have an agenda, then the way that you're speaking, first of all, it has no credence journalistically because he's not accurate. Journalists are supposed to be neutral people.
But that's an opinion, though. But both of y'all are sharing opinion, so there's no right or wrong on matters of opinion. Like there's no way to give it a fact, though.
But I'm trying to tell you. But here are the facts, though. The facts is he was not created by the media because he's been coaching for 20 years. So
he's not saying Dion. What he's talking about the attention, the media coverage that they received was being gassed up by the media.
I get that.
He's not saying his career. So those are two different things we're talking about.
But that's what you're hearing. You're just hearing attention. When he later on says, I don't agree that he's a great coach at all, he's tying everything in to sully the Coach Prime to say, remember, he also said in that same interview that I like the fact that he's leading with Coach Prime because it puts emphasis on coaching.
Yes. Correct.
When you listen to the whole thing in its totality, what he's trying to do, the seabed of what he's doing is trying to discredit and try to sully the whole coaching aspect of coach because he thinks he's just a celebrity who's coaching and he don't like it. You see what I'm saying? So that's what
I don't see it that way, but I understand your point. I don't see it that way, but I totally understand all your talking points.
And you gotta be able to put on certain glasses or certain earbuds for you to be able to understand where this guy's coming from, because he sounds like he's really tired of the entire conversation about Prime. He wants to talk about he wants the purists to own the game again, and he wants to come off of this whole Prime thing, and he wants to get back to the purist conversation because Coach Prime he's killing it when it comes to like other aspects of the game. Like off the field, he's killing it. So this guy doesn't like that. And for some reason, maybe he's not accepted into the Prime culture. He's not accepted into the Prime barbecue. And he feels some kind of way because I can hear it. People who are centrist, like Dion, like DC suggests, people who are centrist, they will give you their opinion based on certain things, and they will not use certain words, certain code words to try to diminish what this guy has already done. Coach Prime has been coaching for a very long time, and he ain't giving no credit. He's not a great coach. I don't consider him to be a great coach at all. Blah, blah. You might as well say, I don't consider him a coach at all. That's my point. So, DC, if you're still there.
But hold on. But wait a minute. You just said stuff about Paul Finebaum that you don't know. You telling that man he's illegitimate. Yet the dude has been in this thing for 50 years. So at the end of the day, I can understand being upset with the statement and how it was made. And notice that
I'm not crap about his 50 years. I can crap on his 50. I can pick on his 50 years.
Okay, so then if he says I don't give a crap about his high school stuff, does he not have the right to do that too?
Well, he
Yes,
has
he
a right,
does.
but he has a right, but keep
Exactly.
in mind he's a media guy, right?
Okay.
I'm a fan. He's a media guy speaking
Yes,
on something, right? So
I
he's
get it.
media.
I
You
get
see
it.
what I'm saying?
But
I'm
here's what
not
I'm
on
saying.
ESPN. I'm a guy on YouTube trying to bring my fan base up, but he has
That's
a
why I'm
more of a
here.
response. He
What
has a responsibility when he talks because of his platform. When he
he
talks,
does.
he needs to talk respectfully on the person he's talking. This is not just some coach that's just coming up. This is a respected coach in his community. He has a big army, and nobody's just gonna let you just run your mouth, especially when you say you've been in this thing for 50 years. And I can check you, and I only been doing it long. I ain't been doing it as long as you. When I know that you're full of crap, and I can call you out, then I know that your 50 years don't mean jack. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Then that's not right.
What do
Because
you
at the
mean
end of
it's
the
not
day,
right?
hold on, let me finish saying
You
what I'm
got
saying.
50 years as a broadcast person, but you got personal agendas. Then how can we hold you at a high esteem? How can you use those 50 years, DC? How can you use those 50
You're not
years
letting
and
me
say
finish my
he has?
statement.
Hold on, DC. How
You're
can
not
you
letting me
say,
finish. But
DC,
you interrupted
50
me.
years in
But
media? I'm gonna let you talk and I'm gonna be quiet. But I'm gonna tell you what this media things means. You
but
cannot use
you're
the 50
cutting me
years as a
off.
credential, DC. I'm just
But you're
trying to let
cutting
you
me
know.
off in the middle of
Hold
what
on.
I'm
Hold
saying to
on.
you
I'm going to
before
let you hold the mic. You cannot use 50 years as credentials in this media game, but your 50 years, you now have an agenda against somebody you don't like for personal reasons. I can't respect your 50 years for that. Go ahead.
Bro, that's your personal hairy decision. Now, at the end of the day, what I'm saying is you can't throw that man 50 years out because you don't like what he said there. And what
Yes,
I
I
was
can.
trying to get you this, what you can. But if you're going to sit there and say that, then are you being any better than what he's doing? No, you're not.
I'm
So
better
if
than
you
him.
want to have the, you
I'm
are better
neutral.
than him. Okay, but here's the thing. I've sat here and listened to Finebaum for decades. And I know there's some stuff that he says that's absolutely on point and trash. So the
Not
reason
this
why
one.
I brought that up is because I knew what was going to happen is people were going to jump and not take the thing in context of what it is. They'll look at those words which were salacious. But at the end of the day, I look at it this way. It's that if what you're saying is true, let's go with it. Because I'm not going to sit here and protect Paul Finebaum. I'm just trying to sit here and say a
What is
question
your
was
opinion,
asked.
DC? You're always trying to be centrist, but you're not. Give me your position on what you think Paul Finebaum says, whether he have 50 years or 100 years in broadcasting, you respect him. What he said about Prime, do you respect what he said about Prime, or do you think for his 50 years he should be neutral? He should speak more of a neutrality tone base and not try to sound personal. When somebody comes and says your attention you got is illegitimate, when they put those, you were created by Hollywood. When they say those things to you and you hear it, are you calculating that and saying, I like what he said because he has 50 years, or do you have an opinion at all?
I gave you my opinion. You're not accepting it. And what that is
Well,
that
what is
I
your
don't
opinion?
agree
I
with
want to know.
everything. I'll restate it. I don't agree with everything that Paul Finebaum said. But I do
Which
agree with
part do
kind of
you
what
not agree with?
I don't like that he's an illegitimate coach. I don't agree with that. Coach Prime has done a good job as a coach. But I will sit back and say the spirit behind what he was saying is undeserved hype. At this moment in Power P4, it is undeserved hype. Now, as far as football, off the field, I got no issues with it. Prime deserves everything he gets. But as far as on that field, X's and O's, has not earned it just yet. I don't think we should be trashing Prime at all. I just don't think the level of hype, y'all would think this is Nick Saban the way some, like we talk about fans, when you saying the Whiniest fan, y'all would think that you're talking about Nick Saban, not a 4-8 team. And there are teams that went better, but under the radar. So I have no problem with the supporting of it, and this is my point. No problem of the supporting of Prime. 1,000%. Prime deserves that, and we should give him his flowers. But until that team has a winning record in this P4 right now in this space of time, since you don't like legacy, it is what it is, bro.
Hey Tim, go ahead, please. If you're still there. All right, so Tim is muted. Give me. So okay, I want you to also define when you say the undeserved attention. So the attention comes first before the media. Just I want everybody to please, everybody that's listening, everybody that's out there, please understand how the media works. The media is not creating anything. The media only takes away. It doesn't give you anything. All right. When the media comes, because it's such a big platform, once they get there, then they just amplify everything. Okay. I want you to.
Can I ask you a quick question about the media?
Hold on one second.
I want you to please define what you mean by undeserved attention.
Okay, hold on one second, because you saying something, and unfortunately, with love, I'm gonna have to give you a little bit of smoke. Yes. You know good and well in Hollywood or in the cinema and in music, which I do, is that we create people, we create careers. You know that. Now, when the media, the journalists comes upon, they're the ones that do the hype. But you know good and well in the music and in the film industry, we create folks. Then when it gets over,
that's not true. That's not true.
Man, come on now. Come
you
on
just
now.
Answered
you
it,
know we
DC.
create folks.
You just pretty much agreed with what
I did.
Harry is saying.
I'm agreeing. I'm agreeing.
Few words.
I agree. But
you're not correct on the media creates people. The media amplifies people, but those people are created. The only reason why those people are getting to the media is because they've already been created, and the media is coming to amplify. They don't create, they amplify.
I agree with that. That's why I don't agree 100% with what Paul said. I agree with that. But as far as can something be created or being created and then media come and amplify, that can happen. However, I am not sitting here saying that about, because notice this conversation. You see how heated it got over something is that I don't agree. I said, I don't know if he wasn't Hollywood created. You see how that started that versus it being to a point of saying, I wasn't saying he was. It was just to a point was, let's pose the question, have the discussion.
You don't think that's disingenuous to say, I don't know?
What I said was, notice how we can't even have the conversation to explore it. We can't.
But we are, though. We are. But when something sounds disingenuous to you, your emotions arouse, and you said, "Well, that's crazy." It's a conversational point. It's not crazy to think that when you make an outrageous statement, for me to get an emotional reaction to it, and you're saying, "Look, we can't have the conversation." No, what you just said was crazy, and it was disingenuous. You said you don't know. So if you don't know, DC, then I find you to be in the court of public opinion. You're disingenuous, my bro. You got to think about it, because what I mean by disingenuous is, if you don't know, then let me give you the record. Let me give you how it happened. For you to be created by somebody, that means that you had nothing, you had no breath, you had no limbs. Like God took you out of the mud, breathed life into you, and now here you are. But the media did not do that. Coach Prime worked on his. He gained his from grassroots. Coach Prime was quiet for years. Even in that same podcast, Paul Finebaum says he disappeared for a while. Hey, Phil, isn't that right?
He did say that, yes.
He said Coach Prime disappeared for a while. When Coach Prime disappeared, what was he doing when he disappeared? He was coaching Pee Wee. He was coaching his son at high school. He was doing his due diligence. The same thing that any coach does. If they come up in those type of trajectory, if their lifeblood is in the coaching thing, that means we give him credit for doing it the way that he does. We don't disparage him. We give him the rightful credit to say, you know what? As an NFL Hall of Famer, he could have just came on the scene and he could have just said, "Give me a job because I'm a Hall of Famer."
Can I ask a question?
We don't even say that. We just say, "Oh my gosh, he's creative." Go ahead.
So, is there any criticism of Dion or CU that you've heard that was maybe said in a bombastic way that you were able to receive and say, you know what, all right, cool, they're making some valid points? Or is it? Do you need
where's that question coming from?
I'm asking because it seems like
of that question.
Because again, going to the point you made about how he said everything. You were saying he could have said it this way. He could have answered the question this way, but
Just be
instead he
neutral.
tried to go after. Okay, so but my question is, what is a worthy enough criticism of CU or Dion that would not have you feeling like this and not have you feel as though the person has a hidden agenda? Because we don't know if Paul Finebaum has a hidden agenda or not. He
Well, I
goes
do.
after
I
a
know
lot of
you don't
coaches.
know, but
Dion is
I
not the
know.
only person. But okay,
Okay.
I,
What
I
okay,
would
whether you
say
think
this. Oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, I was gonna say real quick. I was gonna say the same, similar. I understand where you coming from, and I agree with you. Uh, I feel like he has. I feel like it's a little bit of hate. But hating on Prime, I can't say. Uh, well, I could say it's disingenuous, but I would say to you on the other end, Harry, what Phil is talking about would bring me back to the point of how you started off your show. If you're not able to accept what another person's point of view about the team that you like the most, that would make you look kind of whiny toward that towards your team of your liking.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I had us define what whining is, right? Because I think when people try to define whining and they say, oh, well, you're not able to accept something that somebody's saying, tell me what I should accept. What does accepting mean? So, does that mean that I should accept when somebody says, well, what exactly point do you accept? Because when you're in the midst of a debate, when you're in the midst of trying to get people to understand your point of view, you argue the point until somebody says, okay, I either see or I don't agree, and we can move on. Then we can move on.
that's
But
not how I operate. But I get it.
okay, okay, well, you can, you may be a little bit more petty than I am. I can move on. I can if somebody if
No,
you
no,
don't
no.
agree.
I mean, if we're having a
What?
debate, sometimes it's okay to be like, dang, that's a valid point. Let me think about it. And that's basically what I'm asking you. Like when you hear criticism on Colorado, or is have you ever seen something that made you be like, dog, let me actually go look into that. That's something I haven't heard before, or is it instantly like, no, man, he wrong because see you this, that, and the third. And I
Well,
think
okay,
too
so
many
this is
times the people respond with, no, they're wrong before they even listen to what they said and actually
right.
go look into it themselves.
Okay, so but that's the point that I made earlier. I said that I listened to what he said, right? And when he made the comment of he's not a celebrity coach, I can agree with that. He's not a celebrity coach. He's a celebrity, a rock star that's coaching, and he's coming
Right.
into his own. So I conceded to that part of it. So, but there's something that's important in here that you have to understand. The reason why you asked me that question is not necessarily because of that. You're asking me that question because I'm still in defense mode. I'm still trying to defend a
No,
point.
no,
I'm
you're
I'm
making an
still I'm
assumption though because you don't
I
know.
haven't agreed with I haven't okay, keep in mind I didn't agree with DC on certain things because DC goes into this generosity conversation and say, well, this person's been criticized. That I'm trying to fine tune and get into the conversation where you understand the propaganda that's behind the speech. I'm trying to get to the propaganda, not the general idea of, hey, this is what he's saying. I'm trying to tell you and show you how propaganda works when it comes to this media stuff. People will say certain things, but the underbed, the what's actually surrounding what they're trying to say, they don't necessarily say it because they know how people will really respond. I
But
know what
that's
they're
where
trying
I'm
to
pushing
say.
back. But that's where I'm pushing back on you is because you're making an assumption of motives. You're sitting here saying this the reason why this man said. Now you can sit back and listen some reasons why he probably said it this way, and it may sound like I'm being passive aggressive or not there. But again, I can't tell you motives. Now sometimes you as a believer and I am too, we can discern and stuff like that. But to sit here and say, well, I was using it, and I use that specifically is because Paul Finebaum has trashed everybody. What you're saying is there is an ulterior motive. Tim stated what he thought the motives. Okay, and what I sat back and said, I can't say that can't say that there's not nothing in there. I can sit here and say that Coach Prime is a solid coach. I'm not gonna sit here and say he's an elite coach yet, but I am going to sit here and say he's a solid coach. But that's the thing I'm pushing back on is that Now we're getting to establishing his motives, but we don't want to sit back and put our own online.
But
Okay.
I would also like to defend myself and then explain why I asked that question when you have a moment. But if you need to finish,
Okay, yeah.
point, Harry.
So let me say this piece. When you say I'm pushing his narrative, I'm trying to actually let you know that I'm taking it in stride. I'm not just coming to a conclusion. You see what I'm saying? I'm not saying, oh, this is what he's. I'm actually taking his argument, and I'm saying that within his argument, he can actually have an agenda in what he's saying. This is not a blanket agenda. I'm not saying Paul Finebaum hates Coach Prime, so in general, he's just going to be saying hateful stuff. I'm taking what he's saying specifically and saying that had an agenda. Not Paul Finebaum hates Coach Prime, right? Not every time somebody says something, they hate Coach Prime. That's not what I'm doing. And remember when I pushed back on you, and I kept trying to get you to answer my specific question. I said when he says certain things, the way that he rolled out certain things, he didn't necessarily have to go down this line of saying X, Y, and Z. He could have just given his opinion based on if Coach Prime is a great coach or if he's a celebrity coach, and then went on. But no, he took the time to actually go extra further with his explanation about illegitimacy, Hollywood creation. But all of those things, I told you the specific ones that was not true.
So it sounds like you're talking about the buzzwords, but let me ask you this, because I think when people hear the phrase agenda, it's always negative, and it could have been as simple as he had an agenda to say that to get buzz out for the interview. Are you saying it could have been as simple as that, or are you saying he actually is trying to do harm, not physical harm, to Prime? Is that what you're saying?
It could be. It's not. I don't think harm. I'm not thinking harm. I don't
Well, I
think
mean, like,
Paul
you know what I'm
Finebaum
saying,
was trying to harm, but he had an agenda.
ego.
Yes, he had an agenda. The first agenda was to make sure that this got out to the fan base. That was the first agenda. The second agenda is the second agenda is to undermine Coach Prime, because you got to understand, like when these guys are insiders. They all talk. They all know stuff that we don't know. Everybody's, they all, trading cards and stuff like that. They're in rooms that we can't get in. It was an attempt to undermine, in my opinion, based on something real that he knows about the situation that we don't know.
That's where I'm gonna be honest with you now. I'm concerned. Normally, like Tim, have you listened to Paul Finebaum before? You still on?
Tim is still on, yeah.
Okay. That sometimes that's my concern, Harry, is that there is something else. That is my concern, is something that's going on. But let me ask you this though, because I don't have much else to say on it. There's some points I see where we have similar beliefs, and then there's some points where we probably will come in to a point of understanding. But shows only but so long. Dan Lanning said something similar. So that was Dan Lanning. Why did Dan Lanning bring up Hollywood? Out of all places, why did he bring it up?
Because of the cameras.
Okay,
Dan Lanning specifically said they're playing for clicks and views, and we're playing to win. He said that because
said
of
we're gonna play.
But
think about it. But he said this game ain't gonna be played in Hollywood. It's gonna be played on the field. So
right.
Why would he say that?
Because of the Prime documentary. That? Keep in mind, Prime has a documentary crew on the field. He has a documentary crew following him, and then he also has Neely, Darius, Bucky, his son, and then you got CU, who probably not, doesn't matter, right? But
they're not getting behind the scenes stuff. They're not getting that behind the scenes. He don't trust them, boy.
Okay, so all of those things are the reasons why Dan Lanning said Hollywood, because obviously the biggest thing, the Hollywood part would be the documentary, the Prime documentary. That would be the Hollywood part, and then the rest is about the clicks and views having to do with Darius, Neely, and Bucky. That's why he said what he said, and I didn't have no issue with that. I was cool with that. I understood that. I understood what he was trying to say and what he was trying to do. Like he made me one of those college football fans that's like, oh, okay, you got shots. Now it's real. Now you and I got problems. It was kind of like that. It wasn't like, oh, he had an agenda to hate. That was not that. But the Paul Finebaum stuff, that part it has some underlings. It has some stuff in there that I felt like it was personal based on their relationships behind closed doors. That's what it felt like to me.
Hey, could you also take this into consideration that he is a USC fan, diehard USC Trojan fan, man?
Who? Paul
Who?
Finebaum?
Yes.
No, I can't. I can't take that
Yeah.
into consideration.
Why you
He
Not
can't?
knowing what I know.
They all in the Pac-12.
Yeah, but
They
not
were
knowing
all in
what
the
I know
Pac-12.
about Paul Finebaum, not knowing what I know about him, I can't take that into consideration.
Oh, well,
I mean,
I feel like
he's a
he had
Tennessee alum. He's a Tennessee alum. I
right.
didn't know he was that big on USC, but I know
Yeah,
he's a
bro.
Tennessee
Not
alum.
enough to be like, oh, but we're not even like we're not a rival. So why would that be a thing?
So Harry, it seems like we're gonna eventually transition out of this because I think this horse has been beat to death.
Right.
But the reason why I asked the question is because I just wanted to hear if you've heard any criticism of Dion to CU that you felt like, okay, that makes sense, that's reasonable based off of whatever data or whatever information that was provided. Because I think we're trying to make the distinction between rational, quote unquote, rational fans, even though the word itself, fan, is short for fanatic. You're irrational anyway. Between the rational fan and the irrational fan. And I just want to see you because I feel you're a rational fan when it comes to CU for the most part. Um, are there any critiques that you've seen that made you actually sit back and think and be like, okay, that was a good point, or maybe made you want to do a little bit more research into it?
Well, I think the question, okay, so the answer to the question is I take every question or everything that's said, I take it into stride and I look at it critically. Because keep in mind, I'm critical of Prime at times. I'm critical of some of the things that, some of the way that he handles certain things. What I like to see is when journalists, right? People who consider themselves journalists, because y'all throw this thing around a lot, and I don't know that you guys have really defined what journalistic integrity is. Journalistic integrity is not a lot of these opinion-based stuff. Journalism is not based in opinions. Those are opinion, like analysts are different. Like if you're just an analyst and you're an opinion giver, you're different. But guess what? I would say some people want to call Paul Finebaum a journalist. Do you consider Paul Finebaum a journalist? And if you do, and you say he's been doing it for 50 years, then I hold you to a certain standard as a journalist to be neutral, somebody who gives information based on the facts and not add their opinions into that stuff. Analysts and these other guys, if they want to add their opinions, if you have an opinion, I can attack your opinion based on the merits of your opinion. So that's how I operate. I would look at your opinion and I would say, okay, what did he say? The Dan Lanning thing, I saw that as jousting. I like what he did. I know why he did what he did. That was really good football jousting. And I can come at him and we can go back and forth. But when people start getting real personal and they start saying stuff, certain words and certain keywords, and then I put the whole thing together and I start feeling like you're just tired of Coach Prime and the attention that he's getting, and you just not saying that. Once I get that sense, that's when I go off.
And so would you respect somebody that say, hey, listen, man, I'm tired of talking about Dion. I'm gonna just be quiet this segment. Skip whoever, y'all can talk about Dion, I'll be quiet. You be cool with that? Or would you consider that hate?
If somebody says I'm tired of talking about Dion,
yeah, like let's say for example, us four on first take, right? And Molly throws us a question about Dion, and I'm like, I'm tired of hearing about it. I'm gonna let y'all talk about it because I ain't got nothing to say. Would you respect that person for saying that, or would you feel like that's hate if they be like, I ain't got nothing to say about it, so I'm gonna be quiet? Because to me, a lot of people gonna be
first
like,
of
well,
all,
that's gonna be hate.
You're brought on the show to have an opinion. You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of weird when you have dead air in media. If you didn't have an opinion, then why am I bringing you on the show to start with? It's
Okay,
your
so
opinion
that's
that
the
I'm looking
exact
for
reason.
to
That's
see
the
what you
exact
say.
reason why they brought Paul Finebaum on the Kublik show, on the Macaron Kublik show. They
Well,
wanted
yeah,
his
but
opinion.
I'm attacking the opinion, not I'm attacking what he did say and how he said it. That's what I'm attacking. I can
Okay.
respect somebody having an opinion based on. Listen, what I would have expected, I've already said. What I would have expected him to say, I've already said. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can stay. There's a lot of ways to say, you know, how can I phrase this? It's like, you can say that you don't like Dion, right? If you don't like Dion, what am I going to say about that? Okay, you don't like Dion. So to answer my first question is, the fan base that gets upset with somebody saying I don't like Dion, those are the those you got to be worried about, because somebody just told you I don't like you. I'm a New Yorker. You see what I'm saying? People will tell you straight up who they are and what they are. They don't care. We appreciate that here in New York. You feel me? So it's like, if you tell me you don't like me, yo, you and I are friends, because at the end of the day, I know where you stand at. You're over there, I'm over here, and we already know where it's at. It's the people in the middle that can't tell you, and you're kind of like wondering, well, every now and then they kind of say that, you know what I'm saying? Those type of people you got to be very careful about, because they can turn on you any day. I like truthfulness, but be truthful. Don't try to coat your answer into, well, you know, I don't consider him a great coach. I think what you're just saying is, I don't really like this guy, and I'm tired of talking about him. Just say that then.
But we
Okay, well,
we don't know
we've been
if that's the case though. He Okay, go ahead, DC.
right. That's how I feel. And at the end of the day, I'm going to keep it real with you. Y'all don't want to hear. You say you fine with it, but you don't really want to hear no negative stuff about Dion. You want to hear the stuff that's palatable. You don't want to hear the stuff that's real, like downright, like asking some very pointed questions.
What is
You don't want
negative
to
about
ask
Dion?
that.
What's
Okay,
negative?
so here's the thing.
What would you accept as negative?
See, you're doing that thing right now, because at the end of the day, is 4-8 is negative. The way they
No.
suck at the end of the
I
year
said
is negative.
what define what's negative? What do you consider to be negative for Dion? So I can know what that thing
What
would be.
I'm saying is that I clearly said, because if you like direct, I can give you direct. What I'm telling you is that when it's time where you have to have a deep analysis, and when you sit back and say,
Why is
this
4
didn't
and
make
8
no
negative?
sense.
It's not a winning season.
Dude, why the heck is it not? Is it good? You got coaches.
No,
Y'all
but why
sit
is it
here.
negative? That's what I like to see. I like
I'm
that
telling
stuff.
you.
Tell me that the record is 4 and 8 and stick on that. I'm fine with that.
Because you sitting up here pushing. Well, it was this or it was that. Well, at the end of the day, it's two coaches that took 1-11 teams. Not when the portal got it.
I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying.
I don't think you understand what I'm saying. What
I
I'm
do.
saying is that 4 and 8 is not good. And the way that they lost,
I'm agreeing
some
with
of
you,
these
DC.
games
I'm
were
trying to
bad.
listen. DC, listen. I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying I'm not the type of fan that when somebody says you guys suck last year, you went 4 and 8. I'm not taking that as negative, is what I'm saying. I don't see that as somebody speaking negative about Dion. But there are some fans that would think that would be negative. I'm cool with somebody sticking the football.
And I'll tell you this. And you keep bringing up this high school record, but you ain't dug into it when you actually look at the level that high school record was. Nor do folks understand how the SWAC works. Is if you wind up getting some blue chippers in there, which he did, you're gonna always dominate. So that's the thing I'm saying, is that if folk, well, he did all this, that record looked good, but whenever he went up against a similar talent and a good coach, he did not win the game.
Okay, DC.
That's what I'm saying. Now
listen
he
to
can be better.
This, DC. Listen to this, DC.
Okay.
This is where the argument goes, and that's why I said let's define what this stuff is, so that at least we can understand. And I'm cool with digging deeper. I'm not delusional here. I'm cool with digging deeper. When you bring that side of the argument up, though, when you say every time we bring up Dion and you say, well, let's go deeper into his winnings, This is where I have an issue. Where I say, okay, whenever we talk about X, Y, and Z other coach, you give me their records and we go off and say they are a winning coach. Now, when it comes to Deion, we gotta dissect his winning or his losing and give a reason why he won. It is never. This is not just you. This is what people do. A lot of people do. This is where I have the issue. I'm saying when we look at Matt Rule and his record, when we look at Kiffin and his record, we can look at all other coaches and their records. And if they were a winning coach or they rescued a program, we look at that, we say, you know what? We give them that credit. When it comes to Prime, we need a reason. That's the argument point. That's when I step into it and say, well, wait, there's a disparity. There's this disparity here. We're not looking at the other coaches' records and we're going deeper into it. We're trying to justify that he shouldn't have won it. He did win, but now we gotta say, oh, but it was this level. Oh, it was that level. Oh, it was this level. So it's like the goalpost moves when it comes to Prime, but everybody else can just live on their regular record. And sometimes I make some videos where I go inside the record and I show you, well, you didn't say that about this coach. You didn't say that about this coach. That's why it's my angle. I look at what you say and I dissect it based on its own merits. That's how I do things.
Cool.
Okay.
You can go to the next topic.
All right. So let's talk about with Coach Prime and his fan base. We've defined what this whole, I don't even know if we say we understand that, okay, when it comes to crazy fan bases, whether we consider, are Colorado fans consider whiny fans because we try to defend the crazy stuff, or is it because we talk about everything, no matter what it is?
Say that one more time.
Are we consider whining because people like me try to talk about the specific things that feels weird, or is it because y'all think we talk about everything?
So I'll say this. I think I'm not as plugged into the C universe as some people are. But I feel like when you are a part of a fan base and you're hyper involved with the day-to-day interactions of that team, you're watching content specifically about that school. Um, the noise about that school is always going to sound louder than what it is to the common person. So I don't think you guys are wrong. I think you're in that CU community and you're gonna have conversations about it. I think the biggest issue is when for me, my biggest issue with the Dion fan is whenever he does something that quote unquote the legacy coaches have done, they make it out as though he's doing something new and different, like with the not wearing red or playing the fight song during practice and stuff like that. When that was posted on Twitter, it was like, oh, look at Dion making sure these boys get ready. He, saying he's switching the game up, yada yada yada. But it's like, bro, this has been going on for years. And I think that's where my biggest issue comes from is when you try to make things out to be wonderful and great when Dion does something that has already been done before and is commonplace in college football.
Okay, so what do you think, DC? What exactly? Why do y'all say whiny, or y'all say y'all a whining fan?
I'm gonna tell you, I don't really think, for the most part, that CU is whining. The LSU fans like Tim are whiny. I'm messing with you, but for me, I don't. Like I said, I don't really think. Part of that is because I know there's a section that is new to football. So I don't think that, or they're coming back to football. So I don't think that for the most part, CU fans are whiny. You just love Prime. I don't think you love the team. I think you love the team by default, or in the school by default, but you just love Prime. I have zero problems with that.
That's a good
What
point.
I think, right. So I think that's my thing is, if you were fans of Colorado, had been fans and stuff like that, I probably would call you whiny. But because you're kind of coming in, like people, like Phil would say, is that people saying that Deion changed football. And there are some things that he has changed, but also you have to factor in that Deion came in while football was changing. Think about it. We were changing from four playoffs slots to now having 12. Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12 for the SEC.
Hold on. I thought the 4
is
was
up.
just this year.
What's that?
I thought the 4 would just happen. The 4 just happened.
Well,
No, the 4 has
just
been going on since 2015, so it's about 8 or 9 years that it's been a
Right.
14 playoff. He's saying we're transitioning from a 14 playoff to a 12-team playoff.
Okay.
Right. So that's where a lot of stuff is changing, and then the TV money is out there and all kind of things. So that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. No, I don't think for the most part is whiny. I think there's a section that, oh God, man. I'm just going to say there's a section that maybe is taking this, making it a lot more, and I can respect why they're doing it. But I'll give you one segment that I got an issue with, though, in that. It's like, for example, don't want to see the black man succeed. And it wasn't what Tim said, because Tim's context is different what I'm about to say. Back in the day, using legacy, even now, we would have been, as a people, jumping up and down to see a black head coach at Michigan. Yet it's donuts. I mean, it's crickets. Because so the thing is, you do that part. I don't like, but again, let's get back over into the aspect of I don't think you're whining. I just think there are people that are whining about stuff and they don't really understand how football generally has been operated. That's why I'm saying.
So okay, let me
yeah.
ask y'all a question though. Let's talk about that a little bit. Like, with the understanding that how life works in general, right? Are we supposed to just celebrate everybody, or do we celebrate things that have excitement attached to it?
See, that's the thing. Now we getting into Dan Lanning. We talk rooted in substance. You know what I'm saying? Just because it's exciting doesn't mean it has substance.
No, I'm not
Going to
talking about
Burger, going
substance. I said
no,
that's not the question. I said as a society, do we
right, but that's you said
do we get
exciting.
excited for stuff because of what it is, or do we get excited for stuff because it has attention, or there is some kind of controversy attached to it, or something that gives us a reason to be excited about it?
But that's my point. It's like even like with politics, you know what I'm saying? Like you'll look at something that a politician will say and everybody will focus on that, but that has no bearing on the day-to-day life of US citizens. While the Congress and Senate are passing bills that actually directly affect us, the media won't talk about that. So just because it's exciting and it gets our attention doesn't mean it's good for us. Just like going to McDonald's. We know you can get full eating a Big Mac, fries, and a drink and a
But that's not
milkshake.
why. That's not how and why we celebrate things, because it's good for us. You see what I'm
I
saying?
I'm- go ahead, Tim. Go ahead, Tim.
no, I was just gonna say, like, when it came to Colorado, like, I ain't never been no Colorado fan, man, whatsoever. Uh, I'm all SEC, and but since Dion came over there, now it's a level of excitement to me. Uh, of
Where
what
did that
he's
come from for you, Tim? Where did
um
that come from for you? What's in your opinion? How did you get here?
um I always been a Prime fan. I always liked his swagger. I used to mimic his swagger when he was at Atlanta and when I was in high school playing football. You know, the way that he dressed, his uniforms, I was the exact same way. So I'm like I say, for and foremost, a diehard 21 fan, man. So being able to coach, had the opportunity to coach not only on the HBCU level, but on the Power Four level. Now being raised to the Power Four level, it's a level of excitement, kind of piggybacking off of what DC just stated, to see a African American coach of his caliber and status to coach at this level is exciting to me. Being here in Texas, seeing his son play a couple of games here in the state of Texas, I knew what he was capable of doing at the next level. Is the
Hmm.
level of excitement, but that's what draw. I want to see him succeed. I want to see him win. I want to see him break down that next barrier or that next wall so we could celebrate him even more. Like I really want genuinely want that for him and for the for CU.
So right. So with that being said, why was the Sacramento, not Sacramento? Why was the what was the team? What was the team? What's the Popovich team?
San Antonio.
San Antonio. As many years as they won, right? Why were they not celebrated like some other teams that were winning?
Because they weren't exciting. And that's my point, Harry. You don't have to. You can have quality and not be exciting. Brussels sprouts and grilled chicken is gonna be quality if you're trying to cut weight, right? But you can eat something more exciting like a Big Mac and some fries, but that's not gonna give you the same value as Brussels sprouts and grilled chicken. That's what I'm saying.
I'll
What,
give you
what
an example.
we're
What I
having two
mean,
different conversations though.
but what I would say to that question, Harry, is even though Popovich had Tim Duncan, which is one of the greatest, one of the top centers that ever played a game. Uh, they had what's his name, left-handed, from overseas. What was his name? He was dangerous
Ginobili.
too. Ginobili. They had
Mm,
Parker.
Parker, I'm about to say it
You know
was
what
a
I mean?
Parker.
They had Parker. Like they were exciting in their own right. They were exciting if they dang, how can I word this? To me, I use me for example. They were exciting when I tuned in and watched them. But I wasn't looking for them like I was looking for, hey, what time Chicago playing? Because they had a massive star, a global star on their team in Michael Jordan. So
But
go ahead.
yeah, and Harry, I was the reason why I'm making the distinction between exciting and quote unquote quality is because
Mhm.
you asked why do we get behind. You were asking, do we get behind things that are exciting or things that are good, basically. And so that's why I was making that point. Like, yeah, it's cool that Dion is exciting black coach. That's wonderful, but there's also a boring coach that's at Notre Dame and that's at Michigan, two places like DC, and that 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you would have never expected. Why aren't we celebrating them as well?
Because they're not excited.
Okay, and that's cool. So
But
so
that's
there
that's
so
the
there we
whole
go.
point that I was trying to make.
Cool. Then we on the same page then.
All right, but
People
Yeah.
like to
listen,
So
follow
Bear.
exciting things. We
Right.
on the
So,
same
but
page then.
right. I'll say this though is that's something. Just my observation in our community. I think we lean a little bit too much on the optics versus outcomes. Some of us like the outcomes. I don't care what it looks like getting there, as long as it's legal, moral, and ethical to get to there. Not saying this is not legal, moral, ethical. My God, I hate to even have to say stuff like that. But what I'm saying is that how I got to Coach Prime was from watching him at JSU, being a fan of the SWAC, and watching him transition and build that program. It was exciting and the energy that he put in. Even though he beat my team, I still had the respect of watching him. Was curious, even though folks was telling me I was crazy in the SWAC. That when I said when Colorado came up, I said he going to Colorado. Dog me out, like I'm telling you, dog me, and then where did he go? So my point being is that with it, I like what's going on. I was liking what's going on, but I gotta be real. I'm seeing it where it's just so much stuff that's going on off the field that makes it really hard to win football games. It's called rat poison, and Colorado has a lot of it. So that's the thing when you start seeing the things like, for example, the UCLA game, we talk more about the chains that were stolen than we actually did the thing and how awesome I think Shadur did coming out there after his back was broke. I got to give dude props for that. But notice we talked about all this other stuff versus that the football is 25% of these conversations and 75% of everything that has nothing to do or very little to do. Some of not even parallel to football. That's the thing that. Go ahead.
But I think that's the point that I'm trying to make right here, because that's what exciting and winning are not created equal, because there's a lot of winning football programs. Utah's been winning for a long time. There's a lot of winning football programs that people can just go to if that's all you care about. But I think as human beings, we're looking for excitement because we're naturally bored people. Human beings are bored.
Some of us are like, for example, me. I would watch San Diego State versus Boise, and or I might watch San Diego State or San Jose State versus Hawaii. So you got to be up at 11, 12, 1 o'clock to watch games like that, especially if it was in Hawaii. I like to watch football, and again, y'all know my background. Dad used to gamble on the games, and so would see it just to see how right he was. I could always tell by profanity whether the team won or not. But the point being is that it's always interesting to me to watch people play the game. I watch Colorado because can't nobody take away from it. The buzz up to the week and then the actual game. I mean, those down to the wire games are phenomenal. I just think that as far as football, my only concern, I think as far as football goes, notice the conversations from the new fans is way more about non-football things. And there's some things that are always done in football. Like, again, I told y'all, I hate Auburn. My daughter goes to Auburn. I took my key from her. She can't just come in this house because she chose to disobey my direct order. I'm just playing with y'all. But the point being, it can get like that. And that's all I'm saying is that, okay, if somebody tells you your team is garbage, say we're going to see it on the field. Yeah, that's it. But don't be sitting up here almost a year later saying, I want my lick back from Oregon. You don't want none of that no more. Let that go.
Yo, but listen, at the end of the day, man, when we all celebrate stuff that's celebratable, we all celebrate stuff that's exciting. The general fans, how many people was watching Iowa versus Michigan? Like, it was the purest, right? And it wasn't until
yes, you're right.
Right. So it wasn't until the controversy about, oh my God, she's doing this, and then we start paying attention. Now all of a sudden, the WNBA. Hey, and I tell y'all this: when I on my new channel, the TLPW, I make a short for Kaylin, and I put Kaylin in the title. 10,000 views overnight. I make a short, and I put Angel Reese in the title. 1 view in 3 days.
Boom.
You see what I'm saying?
We're not trying to have that conversation right now, Harry. Because listen, I will. Listen,
it's the excitement conversation. Is I know there's another element to that. I'm just saying we're talking about the excitement part of it. So with that being said, right, because we're gonna celebrate stuff that's exciting. Who or what would you say has the most excited fan base? Which college football? Let's start with the Big 12. Do y'all know the Big 12 enough? No, let me just generalize it. Which college football team has the most exciting fans? Let's start with that.
Okay, so how are you defining exciting? So we all on the same page.
Exciting where they travel well. Their tickets are always there. Nebraska comes to mind right away.
Yeah. So I was saying that.
Go ahead.
Nebraska always travel really well. Wisconsin, ironically enough, they travel really well. Michigan, Ohio State, they travel well. It's harder to say that like Alabama and Georgia is going to travel as well, because a lot of time they trying to save their money for the playoff games because they already know they're gonna make it. They're gonna make it at the very least to the semifinals or probably to the championship. So their fans don't travel as well as they used to. But there was a time a couple of years back when Georgia played Notre Dame. And if you go back, matter of fact, I'll find a picture of it and send it to you. But if you look at the crowd, it was more red in that crowd than green and gold at the Notre Dame game when Georgia went up there. I think it was back in 2016, 2017. And even that Friday, Georgia fans took over Wrigley Field. They went to a baseball game because I think the Braves were playing the Cubs, and it was taken over by Georgia fans. So Georgia fans are pretty good as well. Those are probably the top ones that come to mind. For me, at least.
What about you, Tim? If you're still here, what fan base you think is the crazy or is the most excitable fans? That's if you're still here. You probably. What about you, DC? Are you there, Tim? All right, DC. What do you think?
I will tell you, as much as I love Bama, as many games as I've been to at Bryant-Denny Stadium and even Jordan here in Auburn, man, ain't nothing like a home game at LSU at night. I mean, they LSU fans don't necessarily travel that great, but man, that atmosphere. I mean, folks cooking gators on the grill. Folks is sitting up there, got them nutria rat. They look like big rats, Harry, and they live in the swamps and stuff like that. But they cook these. They make stew out of it. So I gotta say that LSU has some phenomenal. Michigan, oh my God! I mean, they ate up to Nebraska. Is there? But I can sit here and tell you, it's that CU is probably top 10 Rabbit fans at this point. I would definitely say that they love it.
All right, now let's pivot to the craziest fan base or the most toxic fan base. And when I'm saying, if you look at your screen right now, like the most and the least toxic fan base in every conference. Now, toxicity or whatever the word is, right, has to do with like these people are gonna run you. Like when the game is almost over, people start to leave because they know what time it is. And I don't know if that has to do with football more than it had to do with just crazy people. But who would what do y'all think about this list first of all, and what have y'all experienced?
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now for SEC, if you don't have Tennessee up there, God, Tennessee fans is like.
Yeah, I don't know why Missouri is on that list.
Oh, first of all,
you too.
Look at this list right here.
I would say Vanderbilt would be least toxic in the SEC.
Look, if you look at this list right here, you talk about Tennessee, right? The most annoying college football fan base.
See what I mean? Right off the bat, I was like, man. Yeah. So yeah. Oh my God, Harris.
And guess what, DC? God. And guess what, DC? Half of them can't even tell you who actually won a national championship as quarterback for Tennessee. They gonna think it was Peyton Manning.
Oh,
that's the sad part about it.
You ain't lying.
But what makes Tennessee so crazy or so toxic, so annoying?
Listen, what they won that championship with Peyton. Well, excuse me, they won the championship after Peyton left, and then after that, they've been a shell of themselves. And I think it's a lot of older fans that are still riding high, and they're passing it down to the younger generation, but the younger generation don't know their history, and they're just not they're not rational fans.
Well, how are you defining rational when it comes to fan? Are you
remember when I first talked about like
in the stadium? Fans? Are they throwing stuff in the stadium? Are they cussing people's baby mamas out? Are they fighting in the stands?
There's always cussing in the stands, regardless. If it's in the SEC, for sure, it's gonna be cussing in the stands. It's gonna be some nonsense going on. That's just the nature of the beast. But when I talked about they think they're better than what they are, and the performance on the field shows different, that is Tennessee. They are not on the level of Georgia. They're not on the level of Alabama. Now that Texas is in the SEC, they're not on the level of Texas. I think they're moving in the right direction with Josh Heupel. His offense is amazing. His splits on the field, he'll spread you out from sideline to sideline. That's going to be exciting to watch. But as of right now, the hype ain't matching up with what we're seeing on the field.
I would say Texas.
Hey! I would say Tennessee, because Tennessee fans had to chew on the 3 teeth they had left in their mouth when black quarterback won T. Martin that championship. So at the end of the day, I want to address something is that because the thing is that folks gotta understand. I have trashed Nick Saban, and that's my coach. So when folks are sitting up here saying certain things, you got to understand is that if you listen to me long enough, you should be able to take the context. I would never hate Deion, and I ain't jealous of nobody. Understand that. It's that I've enjoyed my life. And so I would just ask folks is that when you I understand this fandom is all in fun, but don't make the mistake of thinking you know somebody just for what they're saying on the panel. Because some of the stuff we're just kind of going back and forth just to have conversations. So with that said, if you didn't quite catch it, you can rewind it. Point being, I'm going to say the next one I'm tracking is that I do have to own that as Bama fans, we're extremely obnoxious. LSU fans are not obnoxious until you go to LSU. LSU has had several, right, Tim, earthquake games where they cheer so loud it shows up on the doggone earthquake sensors.
That's facts.
Hold on, which team was that?
LSU.
LSU
Wow. Wait, at home or away?
at
At
home.
home.
Oh, wow.
Like I said,
Hey,
game day,
but
you
real
can't
quick,
mess with
hey,
LSU.
But look,
Also,
we gotta throw in Georgia fans real quick though, because when they do travel, they are known to bark at everybody. So like it'll be a bunch of drunk white frat guys walking around barking at folks, and then somebody holding the guy's collar back like it's a big junkyard
You
dog
mean
trying to
like
get to
real, like,
somebody.
they're doing that?
Yeah, like "Ruh, ruh, ruh, ruh," yeah, like literally barking at people.
That's a
So
wild
if
dog.
you'll see a Georgia fan with that stuff on, and then let's say they playing Tennessee up in Knoxville. If they walking past a Tennessee fan, they'll just start barking at them. That is just what they do. And sometimes it don't even have to be a football game. Georgia fans can be out in California doing whatever they doing. They see somebody with a SEC team on their shirt, they're gonna start barking at them. They just I can't cuss on the show. They just crazy like that.
Oh Lord, have mercy.
Yeah, they crazy like that.
So okay. So who's the nicest fan base in college football? Because a lot of people don't really know, right? Like who has the nicest fan base? Which you guys say
Of teams that matter, because like we can always say like, oh well, it could be Vanderbilt, but they're not gonna win anything, so they wouldn't be on the list. So are we talking about teams of consequence?
Well, I mean, that's not even fair to even say like teams of consequence. Like I would say that yeah, okay, let's go that route. Teams that people know more for winning, I guess.
That's a great question. I don't know, because usually they don't talk about fans from that standpoint. Like sometimes you may hear, um, like people enjoying the hospitality that they received, going to an away game.
Okay,
But that's more so like the school making it easy for the football team. Because some teams you'll go into the away locker room, it's painted pink, try to get into your mentals. Sometimes they only have like 2 or 3 urinals in the bathroom. I know last year Georgia had to bring like multiple trucks that have the portable, the porta potties, because they only had like 2 urinals in the locker room. So the guys, when they went to the locker room, they had to have the trucks out there to go to the bathroom. So little stuff like that, people have to go through. But as far as like a nice fan base, I can't say that I've heard of one.
I can't say not one that's winning. Like I said, I think Vanderbilt is the most cordial. But even going to watch South Carolina play, I mean, which is University of South Carolina and Columbia is probably, I think I'm saying it right. That's an electric environment too, especially downtown. But the thing I would say is maybe Iowa, maybe, but I don't know. Like I say, Harry, being an SEC country, man, it ain't. And I'm gonna tell y'all now, and Wild Dog can vouch for this. When y'all go to Lubbock.
It'll be a unique experience.
It's two games. You're gonna get a unique experience. One is in Lubbock, and the one was at Omaha, Nebraska.
Lincoln.
Not Lincoln. 90,000 people in your face. Whoo! It's gonna be a lot.
So wait, which we talking about A&M, or are we talking about?
No, he's talking about Nebraska. It's gonna be tough, and then
Nebraska's
Texas
in Lubbock.
Tech.
No.
Texas Tech. He's talking about Texas Tech.
Right, Lubbock. That's what I'm saying. Texas Tech, right?
Texas Tech for love. Yeah, that one's gonna be they throw stuff at folks. I think they do batteries. Yeah, I think they throw like batteries at folks, all kind of things.
Hey, Jackson State fans, they used to do that to the marching band. So I can only imagine what Texas Tech fans got going on.
And that's also not considered assault.
I mean, it's as long as nobody get hurt, right?
You're not gonna get hurt if you get hit by a battery.
What I said, they would throw them at us. I didn't say they would hit us, because they're Jackson State, so they don't know.
Well, Tennessee
Right.
Tennessee fans got in trouble because they were throwing full water bottles at players
Yeah, that
on
was
the field.
against Ole Miss, right?
Yep. So I was
Um,
saying here, it get wild.
but here I wanted to point out some that if you can pull the schedule back up real quick,
Yeah.
that game against UCF, I think is a game that people are sleeping on. I think that's going to be a very entertaining game. People don't realize how much respect UCF their home games have. They call it the bounce house for a reason. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a lot of stuff going on. I think that is a game, as far as atmosphere, that people aren't paying a lot of attention to, because I think we look at the Nebraska game and we know Memorial Stadium is going to be packed out. They sell out every year. They had over 100,000 just for a volleyball game. So you can only imagine what it's going to be like when Deion Sanders and the Buffaloes come rolling in. But I just want to say that UCF game, be careful with that one, because I think that one, not saying that Colorado's going to lose, but just from a sheer home field advantage, I think that's a team that people need to pay attention to when it comes to that home game.
And that's because of the fan base.
Yeah, the fan base, the stadium is kind of, you're not sitting right on top of everybody, but they call it the bounce house because like when they get going, it gets rocking. So I guess the way they have the acoustic set up in there or what, but when they're winning and the fans are going crazy, it's nuts. Like I said, they call it the bounce house for a reason.
So the bounce house is not necessarily like the place is shaking. Is bounce house because they're dancing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I
It's
mean as we say in the South, they got the place rocking. So that's how I would put it.
right. It's basically It's gonna be like that all night long. But the thing about that stadium, because see, like if you look at a game like USC, the Coliseum is kind of weird, but then a lot of these new
I
stadiums
hate
are
that
designed.
stadium.
Oh God, I hate it too. But they're designed to be like right on top of you, so like all noise end up. And when we talked about stuff like last year when Phil mentioned about Prime, like taking the ball first. The thing that you definitely in these environments like Nebraska, you cannot, like for example, you are a fool. Give you Jordan Hare where Auburn plays. You are a fool if you take that ball on the fan side of Georgia and Jordan Hare. You are going to lose. Period. The
If you do
same
what?
thing.
If you take the ball on
Basically,
the fan side.
yeah, on Auburn's fans, like for example, when they sit back and say, okay, who wants the ball first? And then you just say we do, and then the other team gets to pick the
He
side
he
of the
saying
Oh,
field.
okay.
yeah, he's saying what side, because like their
Yeah.
student section is in the
Woo.
end zone. But guess what, DC, it also made it even more beautiful when Metchie hit that Crimson Crane in the fourth overtime right in front of them boys. So it's
Yeah.
a gift and a curse.
Yeah. My hope is now this is it's talking about Colorado. Hopefully, it is that Colorado can make that thing as when they come in there, it's so loud that you can't hear yourself think. The mountains need to
If
be shaking the snow off of it.
You talking
listen,
about that
I would
Folsom?
say we are 3-0 again, or let's just say we're 4-0 this year. I think the rest of those guys need to be careful because with the CU stadium, because we got a few guys that's going to be coming to our stadium, right?
Hey, didn't they do some upgrades to the stadium
Oh yeah, they
this
got a
off
new
season, or
they
is
got a
it
new
next
video board.
season?
No, they got a
Okay,
new
cool.
video board.
That's gonna be dope. That's gonna be dope. Listen, I love the college football atmosphere. It's like no other. Most of my experiences are with HBCUs. But while I was at Grumman, I did play against some PWIs. Went to Washington. We played against Washington State, so that game was in Seattle. Played against Houston. That was a fun opportunity. I was able to go to a Bama game back in 2017, and just the pageantry and the fans and everything that goes along with it being on campus. I love college football atmosphere. So anything that a college can do to make that experience even better, I applaud them for doing it. So I'm glad that Colorado is reinvesting that money into making the fan experience even better.
All right, so let's end this. Let's end this at 2:00 now. We are 2 hours in. It's been very spirited. So let's end with asking you guys: how many actual home games have you gone to, or how many actual stadium experience have you had? And we'll start with you, Phil, and then you can give us your final thoughts.
So I've played
Your favorite stadium experience.
my favorite stadium experience, it's kind of bittersweet. So it was my first time going to the vet. We played against Jackson State my sophomore year in
Tell people what the
2005.
vet is, because I don't think everybody knows what the vet
The,
is.
Veteran Stadium. It's the stadium that Jackson State plays in. And so we had a band member die in a car accident the previous week, and so we actually had to play at his funeral that morning before the football game, and so we had to drive an hour west to go to the funeral. Then we had to drive back through Grambling another 2.5 hours to Jackson, Mississippi. So we already had a crazy situation. We get there a little bit later than we wanted to. The fans are already in the stadium. It's packed out. I'm marching in, and that was the only time I've ever been scared just being in the band. Because like the fan, like you have to literally march in front of them to get to where we sit in the stand. So we're marching in, Jackson State marching band blowing. They sound good. The fans, F this, F that, you ain't this, you ain't that. The boom gonna do this, the boom gonna do that. So we finally get in there, we get situated, we do our thing. Halftime's great. And so after the football games, we have something called the fifth quarter. That's when the marching bands kind of do their back and forth or whatever. We stayed in that stadium playing back and forth for about an hour and a half
Wow.
after the game. They even turned the lights out on us. And we knew we won the battle because Jackson State started playing God Bless America. Nobody plays God Bless America in the fifth quarter. It's always pop tunes, R&B, oldies, stuff like that. So we was like, all right, bet. And it was a surreal experience because the guy that passed in the band, you could just kind of feel his spirit over us, and we were doing it for him. And like I said, it was my first time at the vet, so that was probably my most fun college stadium experience.
What type of camaraderie do y'all build from that? Like, do the two teams start respecting each other from that?
I mean, it's always gonna be trash talk. But the fun thing about the band stuff is it really boils down to what the fans say because there's really no true winner. When you're doing a battle of the bands, it really comes down to what the fans are saying.
Mhm.
So, like the little message boards that band members have are even more crazy than the ones that the football, message boards are because at least with football, you got wins and losses. You know, with the band stuff, it's all opinions of the fans, basically.
That's true. All right. So DC, what is your most in stadium experience? It could be your happiest or it could be your worst.
Definitely Bryant Denny Stadium. That's where Bama plays. It is. You would not believe it. It is the noise, the roar, all that good stuff. I enjoy. I also like games because Alabama State has one of the best stadiums in for HBCUs. I mean, it only holds 27,000. But definitely Bryant Denny, you cannot imagine, especially if it's like one of those rivalry games or something like that. But then I got a close second. I will tell you the stadium that this got something going on, and it gives a team home advantage, and that is Jordan Hare.
Hmm.
That right there, that stadium. If you play Auburn and Auburn, man, it ain't gonna
Jordan
be
here
no.
is Auburn Stadium.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's something. It's something about that stadium. I shoot at the bird every time I drive past it.
Hey,
But
DC, have you been to a game and actually seen the eagle fly?
oh yeah, yeah,
Okay,
oh
yeah,
yeah,
that's a
yeah.
pretty cool entrance.
Yeah, yeah, they do a great job on game day. But I would have to say, and like Wild Dog was saying, University of Louisville, Papa John Stadium, that's a good one too. It's a lot of good ones, but I would definitely have to say because Alabama has done so well and just the support that you have there, Brian Denny is awesome.
How many stadium games do you catch a year?
You want to know the last stadium I went to, Harry?
Sure.
The last game I went to was 2018, and I saw Alabama play Mississippi State. And after that almost 2 mile walk, I said, I could have been sitting my behind at home watching TV. And so from this point on, because I get free tickets all the time to Bama game, I will not go. Because I can think about it.
It's a 2-mile walk from the stadium to your car.
If it's a good game,
Oh yeah, it's a good little walk.
One. It's a good walk. You gonna walk, bro. You gotta park and then walk, and then the closer you park to it, the more it's gonna cost. But yet, if you park close to the stadium, it's ridiculous trying to get out. It will take you over an hour and a half to get out of Tuscaloosa, and I ain't gonna even go there for Auburn. So Harry, my thing is, I got a choice. Do that, pay $8 hot dogs and stand in line to step and pee, or sit at home and eat hot wings and get up whenever I want to and watch whatever game. What you doing, Harry? What you doing?
Hey, but y'all remember y'all the crazy fans. Y'all love the game so much.
Hey, no, but real quick, I want to say I do got a slight flex. So like, last year a couple of friends and we put some money together. We had somebody that had a connect, and we actually got a suite for a Atlanta United soccer game. That was the best game day experience I've ever had in my life. I know it wasn't related to college football, but like being in the suite, having the food, the drinks, private bathroom, all that kind of stuff, that felt wonderful. So now, next time I go to an actual sporting event, if I can't have that experience, I'm gonna be real mad.
Well, okay. So what was your in studio or on the field? What was your last time you went to in the stadium?
So college football related was when Bama played Mercer in 2017. That was the year they won a national championship, so that was a really cool experience. I said maybe I was in section A, B, C, D, E. So I was in section G, and Jalen Hurts' mom was in section F, and we were maybe 10 seats away from each other. So like I even have a picture of her kind of looking like a stalker. So that was pretty cool. But that was my last experience going to a game as far as like
both of y'all
are
20. Did you say 2015 DC or 2017? Because you said 2017, right?
I said 2017. Okay. So you went the year after them, then.
Oh, okay.
You went the year after they won the national championship.
Right, I did. Now I've been when, like I said, when they sucked, I would go. Like when Mike Schuler was coaching, I've been. But after one game, I was like, man, this is garbage. I stopped going because I mean, people don't realize is that all the stuff you got to go through with big stadiums. I'm curious. Well, Harry, share with me how your experience at Folsom Field just for the spring game was.
I mean, it was crazy because I think this was the first time the fans actually got to see Prime on the sideline. So it was crazy. It wasn't. I don't think it was as festive as when you have an opposing team, and everybody's going back and forth. And then when I get to TCU, and they're too calm for me. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm trying to start stuff, and everybody's looking at me like, "Come on, guys, sit down, boy." I'm like, I said, "No, this is a stadium. Y'all supposed to be
in the wrong section. That's all.
Yeah,
you
like
had to be in the wrong section.
Ready to fight. Like I'm right there at the goal line. I'm right there, like because that's obviously that's not the tickets I pay for, but you know how that goes.
I'm not
sitting where I pay for. Are you kidding?
I almost forgot. Kevin Pryor in the chat mentioned something. One of the game that's electric, and I know that Phil's gonna have his is going to the Magic City Classic with Alabama State versus Alabama A&M in Legion Field. That thing, that's two HBCUs going. That's like the longest, one of the best classic. I've gone to a couple in Atlanta, but man, let me tell you, it is all out a party like none other. It's shaking and rocking, and I'm sure the Bayou Classic. I've never been to a Bayou Classic, but I'm sure it's about the same.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's a good time, and plus, when you in a city like New Orleans, it's always gonna be fun. The Bayou Classic is nuts. It's a little unfair because it's in Southern's backyard. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot longer to travel to get down there, but Bayou Classic is always really fun, man.
Well, those are some good football stories. Hopefully, we can do more shows that maybe just talk about some of the good old times and not always talking about arguing about Dion, right? These we have we all have more in common than we do. Okay, we know that we always arguing about Dion, but college football is a good experience, and I like the experience so far. I mean, I wasn't part of this community for a while, so I like the experience I'm getting, and I'm gearing up. Once I get to that point, I think we're gonna be having more conversations like this. But we gotta warm up to it. We gotta get past the disrespect for Coach Prime and start. Once we get to the football conversations with Coach Prime, I'm telling you, we're gonna have some great times. All right. Right now, we're not having no football conversations. We're having too many outside, like you're saying. We're having too many. DC, what did you call it? Like rat trap or rat
Rat
poop?
poison.
The rat poison. Yeah,
Yeah.
off the field game.
Yeah, we're having too many rat poison conversations. I'm ready to get to the football conversation. And I'll tell y'all, at the end of this season, I feel like Coach Prime is gonna get his football respect. Because Coach Prime he's gonna put his foot on somebody's neck that everybody respect. I don't know if that will ever happen where Coach Prime is gonna beat a team where everybody's gonna feel like, oh, okay, that team was a formidable team. Because it was always going to be something. TCU was great until we beat them. Nebraska was great until we beat them. And it's like they're always going to try to find a way to. But I feel like this season is going to be the season that Coach Prime actually gets. You know what I'm saying? He probably gets a good football treatment as a coach.
He gets y'all to 8 wins. The conversation is going to change a lot. Get to 8 wins and y'all good. I think it can't be a bowl game. I think that's too minimal. You know what I'm saying? You gotta get 8 games and maybe even be in conversation of going to the conference championship. So you probably would need to win more than 8, but who knows with the Big 12? It looks like it's up in the air. It could be anybody's year.
So
right, because folks are focusing on games on the schedule versus you got to think about your West Virginias and your Iowa States and all that good stuff. But I will tell you this, Harry, you beat Nebraska and then go in there and dominate UCF, you're gonna get a whole different tune. You're gonna
I don't think Nebraska is gonna do it. I'm telling you, I don't think Nebraska is gonna do it because it's already embedded a freshman quarterback. That conversation is already ready to go either way.
No, but guess what, Harry?
Beat us, that's gonna be it. If we win, then it's going to be the freshman quarterback.
But no, we gotta hold their feet to the fire because everybody's. Again, I can't cuss. Everybody's all on Nebraska side because of their defense, and I understand the argument. They did have a good defense last year, so you can't sit here and say Nebraska's going to be this and that because of their defense, and then Shador goes out there and shreds them. No, keep that same energy.
They're not. But I'm trying to be honest. They're not. You know what I'm saying? Because did you see how quickly the TCU conversation switched from?
But TCU was a garbage team last year, though. Let's be honest.
They were, but
they didn't turn out as good.
Why were they not garbage in preseason? You see what I'm saying?
Well, because folks under because this can go down a rabbit hole, but I'm not going to go. I'm going to say is that because folks can look at teams and think, oh, they'll be good on paper, and then come out there and stink it the frick up. But I will tell you this. If you beat Nebraska and you beat UCF, you are sitting there, so that means you will be 5-0. You're getting ranked, and you're going to have the love. There's no way around it that you're going to always have your detractors, folks that's just not going to like. They're just not going to like Colorado, not going to like what Deion does. But if you are sitting there and you beat UCF, you will be good and can't nobody take crap from you. Now, if you
promise?
Crap the bed for the rest of the game.
I want you to promise. Put that on the record on the show before we leave.
I'm going to put that on the record. I'm going to put that on the record. And matter of fact, I'm going to put that on the record. Matter of fact, I'll call in the Paul Finebaum show because he does one every day and tell him how trash he was about Deion. If they go ahead and do that, I'm telling you, I'm serious. I will call Paul Finebaum.
Until then, he got 50 years for you, right?
Yeah.
Hey, but listen, I will say this. I don't think this season is going to fall off the rails like it did last year, but I can see Colorado having a 3-0 start, 4-0 start this year. But the back half of that schedule, based off of the previous year, those teams are going to be a lot tougher. So I think the hype
Hey,
will
could
be
y'all
there.
keep talking for a second? I got to run out for real quick. Keep
Go ahead,
talking,
yeah.
please.
So DC, I think the hype is going to be there for the first half of the season. That's where Colorado is going to be able to build their hype because they're going to be able to win games. When we get to the back half of the season, I think that's when they're going to quote unquote earn the hype because they're going to be going against Arizona, your Utah, your Kansas State, your Oklahoma State. So those are four of the top 8 teams in the conference. So I think the back half is when they're going to earn that respect or earn the hype, so to
Right,
speak.
because like the first 3 games, because they're out of conference games, that's one thing. But when you start getting the
Right.
Baylor and UCF, you're there on that path of winning. Because again, like we say, you can't just look at the teams on the schedule for the Big 12. You got to look at the West Virginias, the Iowa States.
Yeah.
Not saying you got to look at BYU and Arizona State. They're not expected to be good, but
But you might play against them in the conference championship if you make it. So you got to know what's going on.
right, but Colorado, man, I'm saying they have the hardest. I think they got the hardest schedule. In Arizona State, they have the hardest schedule in the Big 12. So I'm looking forward to see what they do, and not so much of what they can do at Folsom. It's home game. Like, how does Colorado handle the Nebraska environment? Notice I'm not sitting there saying Nebraska's gonna have this super awesome team. I'm simply saying that environment when you have 90,000 people, of course they're probably going to do a red out. Like
Hmm.
what's that going to be like? And then when you start like traveling on the road to UCF, which will be a hype game, and then after that they get to what is that, Cincinnati or not Utah after
I
that.
think
But anyway,
Cincinnati is before Utah at some point.
right. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to seeing how they navigate through this because the back end is tough, and that's why I would say is that at the beginning saying, hey, we got to come out and dominate. You don't want to risk trying to punish people and make a statement that you wind up causing injuries that cost you in the back end.
And DC, guess what? I'll say this. Me specifically, Colorado can go to Nebraska and lose and still gain my respect because that is not going to be an easy environment. That is going to be the toughest environment that Dion has coached at since he's been at Colorado. Um, and I want to see how the coaches are going to be able to handle it on the sideline. Are they getting into it? Can they communicate well? How well Pat is going to be able to communicate with Shador because now this year the quarterbacks can have the offensive coordinator or the play caller in their ear. So I want to see like, do they have a system in place to make sure Shador can hear it? How loud is the crowd going to be? Can their defense go in and make it tough for the true freshman because we all know he's probably going to be starting. But they can go in there and not win, but still look like a quote unquote legit football team and earn my respect. Now they can't go out there and get blown out, but they can go out there and lose, but still look like they got their ish together and earn my respect even more.
I
That's the
got one football question before we go though. I
that's the
got one.
I know you do, but does the conversation change if Colorado blows them out? If Colorado blows out Nebraska, does the conversation change? Would it
Yes.
say, "Oh, Nebraska was trash"?
No,
Um,
I don't think they do.
so here's the thing: if Nebraska ends up going 4-8 this year, you can't say that was as impressive as a win when you look back on it. You can say it was an impressive win at the time because of where people thought Nebraska was going to be. But a lot of times when you go back and look at a record, you judge it based off of what that team looked like for that specific year.
Now, can I tell you something? It's a concern of mine. Is that it's like this with the helmet situation. That my concern is that people start exploiting that. For example, if you come too dependent upon that, or let's say, for example, if I'm a team, and I don't know how it works, but if I'm a team that's going, well, shoot, we're going to practice on hand signals. So, because if one team's comms is out, communication is out, both of them, then neither one of them can use that.
Correct.
So if the team is not practicing to be able to still use the hand signals and all that kind of stuff that's going on, then I know I would probably, if I'm a coach, I'm gonna go in and I wouldn't do this. I could see a coach doing this though. Go in there and say that, hey, we're gonna practice without it. Then we get to the game. Oh, our stuff is messed up. Now the other team has been dependent upon the technology and they don't have it.
Look, any coach worth their salt is gonna have a backup plan.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
I'm going to hope and pray that is not going to be an issue with Colorado this year. But it is a valid thing to be concerned about. I just if we find out they weren't prepared for a situation like that, I am going to blow a gasket.
Yo, come on, for real.
All that gold jacket talk don't mean nothing if you can't have a backup plan for the comms going out. But that is still something that I hope is addressed and they have a plan for.
Yeah, I don't know that those amateur moves are going to be out there. Hopefully they're hearing us. Can y'all please make sure y'all got a back? Come on, we shouldn't even be having this conversation. But hey, you never know.
Right.
You never know. There were.
Hey, but look, a lot of coaches don't understand the overtime rules about who gets the ball first, and then when you have to go for 2-point conversion, and then when it's only the 2-point conversion. So when it comes to rule changes and new things being implemented in college football, sometimes there are some knowledge gaps. So it's not unlikely.
But we have a Hall of Famer though, so we shouldn't have to worry about that, right?
In the NFL, but you got to remember the rules are
2-point
different.
conversion is not an NFL thing.
No. I'm saying when you have to do the 2-point conversion in overtime, just like for example when Colorado took the ball first in overtime.
What's the rule difference?
So in overtime in the NFL, both teams get the ball first,
right?
And then if both teams score, you keep on playing until the next team scores. With college football, overtime you get the ball. I think at the 25, one team gets the ball. If let's say they get a field goal, the next team they have to at the very least get a field goal. If not, the game is over with.
Correct.
If they score a touchdown, the game is over with. If it's still tied after the first overtime, then they swap sides, do the same thing. Then if it goes to a third overtime, you're only doing a play from the 3-yard line. So basically a 2-point conversion play. And you keep going back and forth until one person is able to stop or one person is able to score.
Okay.
So that's why people were confused when Deion took the ball first against Stanford, because it's like, why would you take the ball first? Most people want to know what their offense needs to do in order to be prepared for overtime, instead of saying, hey, I'm gonna put my offense out there. Guess what?
Didn't we score on that first play?
You did, but here's my point. Let's say Shador fumbles the ball because he got sacked, and then Stanford got the ball. They can go straight and kick a field goal, and the game is over with like that. You're not making them have to earn it. So that's why they like to put the defense out first. The defense can maybe get a stop. Okay, it's 3 points. Now, my offense, I know, hey, if I can score a touchdown, the game is over with. Or at the very least, I need to get a field goal. You want to know how many points you need to advance or win the game.
Right. So what? Hey, DC, this might be for you. Phil, you can answer. Which team? We kind of dealt with it last show. Which team on this schedule do y'all think that Coach Prime wins and his legacy or the conversation is, if it don't change, then y'all will go on. Y'all will become a Harry B and go on The Office. Which team is that for y'all on this schedule?
I'm gonna tell you this: if they go 5-0 down to UCF, and then they play Kansas State at home, and they beat Kansas State, and are not giving Colorado their flowers.
Why are you changing the criteria to 5-0?
Okay, well, what I'm saying, because at the end of the day, it's going to give credence to Kansas State. It's expected to be one of the top teams in the conference. They have the odds are. So I'm guessing they would have had wins on all these teams and got to Kansas State. They would have been 5-0. Kansas State coming to them. If they win that game with Kansas State and folks are still talking smack, I'm gonna be right there with y'all.
So you changed the color of the question. You colored it up. This is the question.
I would say Kansas State as well. That the Kansas State, if they don't get respect for beating Kansas State, I got a huge problem with that.
Because you're putting a criteria on Kansas State.
Okay,
Take
but
away
regardless,
all
even
of
if
the
they didn't.
criteria,
Okay,
and the
Kansas State.
strongest team on this schedule that you think Coach Prime wins without your prior
Kansas
criteria.
State.
Kansas State is that
Kansas
team for
State.
you? What about
Yeah,
you,
I was
Phil?
gonna be the.
I would say Kansas State, Utah, and Oklahoma State, because I think those are kind of the
Is it
fixtures
Kansas
in the
State from
conference.
prior years or Kansas State this year?
From prior years, because regardless of how good or bad Kansas State is, they're known for playing tough. You know what I'm saying? So like it could be a situation where Colorado goes out there and wins by double digits, but they had to bust their behinds to get that double digit win. So I think a lot of people have respect for Kansas State when it comes to that.
So okay, so y'all are unanimous with Kansas State being that one team that without any prior criterias that Colorado goes into Kansas State and beat them. Y'all gonna say, y'all need to be quiet about Colorado.
Here's the thing: if Kansas State, if because Kansas State comes to Colorado, if Colorado beats Kansas State, which is Dylan's playing for Kansas State now, and that all the hype that will be behind that game, and I'm not saying hype in a negative connotation, but if you because then you have knocked off a team that was projected to be the top, the creme de la creme of the Big 12. One of the teams.
That would be Utah, actually.
So that's huge.
It's not Kansas. Kansas is not the creme de la creme.
Yeah,
Utah is.
Yeah, Kansas State wouldn't be my top team. I was just going in the order of it. It would probably be Utah, Oklahoma State, then Kansas State.
I'm trying to hold y'all to the fire here. I'm asking
so if you want to
very specific. What is the best team that you're like emphatically? I don't want no criterias attached to it, no sauce, no extra nothing. If Colorado is 0-11 and they go into this team and beat them, you're like, you know what? I don't care about the 0-11. They get my respect.
But here's the thing, though: if Colorado only wins one game against a really good team, that's not gonna impress me enough to be like, I got to be the new Harry P. That's not gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like that's not how I operate. But I'll just say
lucky,
this.
Though?
But I mean, you know, you can say that. But no, but to hold my feet to the fire, I would say Utah, because I think right now that's like, if not unanimous, that is a strong favorite for the Big 12. So I will hang my hat on Utah. If they go out there and beat Utah by 10.5 or more points.
No. Just 3. Don't change it. 3 points.
But you said Deion was gonna shock the world and gonna dominate people and blah blah blah. So that's why I said
no. That was that last show question. This show's question. I'm talking about teams that we're not expecting Coach Prime to win, but Coach Prime goes out there and beat the best team that you feel like in this conference is the best team. I don't care whatever you give Prime. You can give him BJ Green. You can give him anybody. Khalil. He goes out and beat this team. I'm giving him respect regardless of what Paul Finebaum or anybody has to say.
K-State for me. K-State for me.
Oh, so it's still you're sticking with K-State.
Yep, I'm sticking with K-State.
K-State projected. K-State that we don't know. Like
K-State is projected. Well, K-State is projected by many of the I guess prognosticators or whatever it is, or proctologists, if you want to call them that. I'm messing with you. But the thing is that they're projected to have a 9.5 win total. So they're right up there around that 10. I think that Kansas State has a pretty solid QB, though he's young. He impressed me in the Pop-Tart Bowl because he would throw the ball away. They do have good receivers. They're going to have a good running game, and they're going to have a pretty decent defense. So I think if Kansas State comes into Colorado and Colorado beats them, to me, that's one of those games where, okay, y'all ain't playing. Now, I could easily go with Phil, not just because it's Utah, but because of where it's in the schedule. If you get to the end of the year and you beating Utah or Kansas, you've done something. But I'm gonna go with Kansas State.
Oh, I feel like we need to have a whole show about this question, this line of question. Like, this is, I like to get other people's opinions. Like, I really want to know what y'all really think. Like, you know, what's in your hearts of heart? Like, oh, this team, because I want to get people on the record this year. I want to get y'all like people like who may be neutral about this team, get them on the record saying, what is the team that you feel like is going to really hunker down for you? Okay, I see that.
But I'll say that I know you got to close up, and I actually got to hop off in a second. But like,
Yeah.
it does matter where the game is in the season, and it does matter how good we know or we find out the team is. Because like I said, if you beat Nebraska and Nebraska goes 1-11, how impressive really was that win? But let's say, for example, a team like Cincinnati that nobody's thinking about. Let's say Cincinnati wins 10 games this year and they shock everybody, but Colorado is one of those two teams that they lost to. That win may be more impressive than the Nebraska game. But just based off of the preseason and all the hype, I would say Utah will be that team.
Well, no, because Colorado
But see
gets
here,
Colorado gets a big, we get dogged in the media. Okay, I'm just saying, like, we get dogged regardless. So I'm just saying, like, okay, if we would have just enlarged the question a little bit, stretch it out with a rubber band a little bit, and say, what if Colorado goes out and just out of the blue plays Michigan from last year, or plays in Alabama and then beats them by 1 point? Like, that's the question I'm asking. Like, what team do you feel, even though that we're not playing them? That's the nature of the question I was trying to make sure we got.
but
You beat any of the top 6 teams in the SEC. I'm like, all right, Dion might be on to something.
Okay, all right.
And see, Harry, like, for example, I gave you a reason why I thought Kansas State would be good. Now, I do have a team, and I think these are great conversations. Now, I will tell you this, a team that I think Colorado fans are sleeping on, thinking it's good, it's homecoming, and that's Baylor. I don't think folks have dug deep.
No, Baylor is not
into
removed. Baylor is only 2 years, or is it 2 or 3 years removed from from championship?
Man,
2 years removed.
2 years. So no, ain't nobody sleeping on Baylor.
You cannot, when you go back and look at it, and I'll send y'all some stuff, you cannot sleep on that game. I know it's homecoming, and you probably have come off of 3 wins in a row, but that's one of them. That's what they call a trap game.
And their coaches are wounded dog.
Hey,
well, he fighting.
Hey,
right.
Harry, did you hear what he said? Did you hear what DC said though? He said y'all will be coming off a 3-0 record. Somebody don't have faith in Nebraska. Somebody don't have faith in
DC
Nebraska.
know we be in Nebraska. Like, come on, stop playing. DC know who's gonna beat Nebraska.
I'm trying to be.
Ravioli is gonna be cooked. Trust me.
Yeah,
We shall see.
but the thing. Well, but notice I didn't say Nebraska being a trap game is Baylor, and there's reasons why, because you've got QB. And I know some people may say, well, this quarterback, like for example, Kansas State, he's more of a running quarterback. I think y'all got to understand is that a team that can run on you can beat you. You don't need a dynamic passer for Colorado. A team that can run on you can beat you. That's why when you hear me say things about UCF, notice I'm not even using Utah or Kansas, which if Jalen, put it like this, if Jalen Daniels is healthy at Kansas, that dude is almost, if not as good as Shador. Yeah, I said it. If he's healthy. I'm just telling you.
That does matter.
It does. It does. Health matters because, keep in mind that Colorado was hurt a lot last year too. So, but let's leave it right there, man. This is a great conversation. Let's go have a great weekend with our friends, family, and loved ones. All right, guys.
Yeah, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, man.
Happy Father's Day, guys. So if you have a child or you're nurturing someone or you're helping somebody to live a good life, I say salute to you, and shame on those who have one and haven't really done anything in their lives. Shame on you.
There you go.
All right, guys. Y'all have a great weekend, man. Thank you for joining me on the show. I appreciate you, man.
All right,
y'all
two
be
brothers.
blessed.
All right, chat. Y'all take care. Have a good weekend. Peace.